We're back. Good morning. Welcome back, Nico. Or I should say welcome back to me because you've been around. You've been doing things. How's it going?
Yeah,
and good morning. Pat's already here. It's great to see Pat. Happy 4th of July, Pat.
Back again. Gary's back. He brought a friend. Guess who's back? Guess who's back?
Man, I missed you. You and I had spoken a little bit. I had a crazy mid to end of June. Both my kids graduated remotely, and I work in school. Thank you. Yeah, so one is going to high school, one's going to middle school. I made it that far. I'm done. I'm like, college, figure out on your own. And then I had to organize a remote graduation for 150 of the kids at my school. So I actually used this platform, and when the district saw it, they're like, we want to use StreamYard. So StreamYard, if you're looking, someone to really advocate and sponsor, we're still looking for a sponsor. And it ran without a hitch live on YouTube, 2 hours. I was able to play some music. They didn't give me any, because it was educational, not corporate. They let me play music over the background. So it was great. And I'm happy that we have already four viewers excited on this today. For those who don't know, I am Gary Nusser. I go by the comic unexSPECted. It looks like that Twitter feed. You're only getting part of my Twitter feed, but whatever. It's somewhere in the YouTube. But I'm at the Anglo_files, and that's where I've been doing a lot of. I haven't been able to find a platform like CBSI and MeWe sucked. So I've been using Twitter and throwing a lot of this comic stuff. So if you've been following me on Twitter, you'll see a lot of the things pop up on screens today we'll talk about. So, Nico, what have you been up to? I know you've been doing interviews regularly, so tell me a little bit about what's going on. I just read your last column, too. It was great.
Thanks, sir. Yeah, so I have been doing a lot of digging. I got out with my mask. Missed a couple exceptional dollar sales that were had here locally. But Mercenaut, my buddy Keith from the Comic Book Wars podcast, if you remember him, Sleepy John, they're just like Keith's friend Sean are just exceptional pickers. I'm sure they did well. But I've been hitting shops, having a lot of fun in the Pennsylvania, Ohio, West Virginia area. Dug in on Star Wars. I think I'm almost done buying, but only because there's no more books left to buy. Between me and those other guys going out and grabbing the keys, sticking them in a box, and just sitting on them, they may all be gone.
Yeah, we'll talk more about that because I'm of my own mindset with Star Wars that I think the pendulum has swung almost too far. Of like, there are so many characters, and think about it, like. Think of the pantheon of Marvel characters or DC characters. People are just like, it's like everyone's grabbing you're grabbing these great characters like Nikano Lash from Bounty Hunters 1, but they're also grabbing like the Paste Pop Pete's of the Star Wars universe that are going to sit in short and long boxes. But these are speculative plays. These are things that people should not be spending a lot of money on for characters that have not been established yet.
Yeah, I mean, my buy-in is certainly not eBay market. Like anything that I buy, I am always pulling these, for cover price or less, or if they're, okay. So I broke down and paid, I think, $25 for 2 copies of who's the Indiana Jones girl?
Oh, Afra, Dr.
Afra. Yeah, of her first prints, because they were just solid 9/8 contenders. I was like, oh yeah, I'll gamble on that. But that's like, I paid maybe $10 for a first Cad Bane, Darth Bane. Those are different characters. I learned that recently. That's something I learned during the COVID crisis. But
maybe you can teach me. We'll do an episode where Nico teaches Gary about everything he wanted to know about Star Wars but was afraid to ask. How about that?
Yeah, well, so if we can get together and try to put that together as a show, I think the intelligent way to do it would be these are the potential shows, these are the potential characters, this is the potential movie arc. And these are the potential characters of how they could do that movie arc. You know what I mean? Like, I think there's 2 movies they could do, and a dozen TV shows that they could do, and how and what the key characters would be, and then what the key books are. But Star Wars is cool once you get past the is that English, that name? What is that name? And actually see the characters. Like I'll give you, I got
and I'm of the mindset, Nico, that half the people who are collecting Star Wars anyway, they're just making up how to pronounce these names because they haven't.
You're right. Like they've got characters like this.
Gorgeous.
Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah,
get out of town. That's tremendous, and that's why that plus all of the TV shows is why I think there's hope for this stuff in the long term. But I think it's like a buy cheap, stick it in a box, much like my other favorite book, buy them for $1, stick them in a box.
You know what? And that's something we'll touch on.
I don't think it's coming in 2021. But the books might take off in 2021 if the movie's going to happen in 2023. You know what I mean? But it's not going to happen in the next 6 months.
Right. People in Star Wars game, you have to have patience because you know what? The first round of people who were buying those Star Wars books, all those Dark Horse books up before Marvel got the licensing back, now some of those are finally coming into fruition and people are getting to sell those books out. So I think that's a great show. I want to say hi to all of our viewers. I want to say hi to Pat, Bab Taylor, Paul Diggs Comics, The Lyric Magic Moments, Concetto D'Amico, Plante's Plentiful Plethora of Printed Periodicals. I know who that is. That used to be he'll type his name in what he was in the side. He was lucky he found Star Wars Clone Wars 1 for cover price. Yeah, those books. And now remember, things are opening up again, and some inventory has been coming into shops, older inventory, not new inventory, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But there is older inventory now that if you get there, if you're ahead of the curve, you might be able to pull a lot of these books out that were hot 3 months ago, and they sort of settled back in a little. And you know, one of the reasons I decided, Nico, that like summer is my vacation month. We're going next week. We're going to Cape Cod. We're going to go for a week, get out. But I had to come back and do a show. And jokingly, I put coming back to save comic speculation. But you would think I would be happy, right? Like I'm on vacation now. My, we've settled a little in New York. I can have people in my backyard, socially distancing, wearing masks or whatever. We grilled up a little. I'm eating my leftover red, white, and blue star-shaped waffles for breakfast. And Pringles. Come on, Nico. I don't want to play dad here, but that's. I
got problems. I've got problems, Gary.
Are Pringles
mental health problems?
Are they brunch food Pringles? Oh yeah, overweight lover Andy. That's it. Thank you, Plante. But I'm kind of angry and I'm a little frustrated, and so I've been gathering up some ammunition. Let's say I put it not right-wing ammunition, not that type of ammunition, but some slideshows that are. Things that are baffling my mind lately, and
demonstrative evidence, if you will.
Yeah. I'm gonna touch on some of these things. Like I was just on Twitter. I talk about curating my Twitter feed, and I tend to follow a lot of creators and writers and some critics and then just some people who I know locally. But what I actually do is I'll actually unfollow people who are doing speculation like I am, because I don't want to be influenced. And somebody reached out to me and said, I can't believe you unfollowed me. And I said, the only reason I unfollowed you was because I don't want us to sort of like bang off each other. And then, and it seems like in speculation, there's a big of, I found this first, or I found this first, or I did. It doesn't matter.
There's also a lot of the telephone game. And to what you said, listen, in the history of the universe, no two people have had the same idea at or around the same time without being influenced by one another.
No, that's even.
Wait, no, that's silly. That's a dumb idea.
No, Da Vinci, right? Da Vinci's helicopter. You saw that somewhere else. But anyway, grocery store sushi. That sounds good too. But so I want to touch on some things. Like I said, I'm a little upset because one, I've seen some things popping up that. Pump and dump is not something we do. And I'm very frank that when I put something up on Twitter, I'm buying in a lot of things that I'm discovering, and I'm going to buy in and find those cheap copies. And I'm going to give you some examples in a little bit. But on the other end, some of the pricier copies that we talk about have been starting to skyrocket. So some big variants. And I love CBSI. I know you're a CBSI, you're a company man, right? ESPN.
Yeah.
So I'm going to share a screen here. And
they published my articles.
Your manifesto, you mean?
My manifesto, right? It's Nico's manifesto.
You finally got So this is my new my coffee cup, by the way. I can't even. That's been my philosophy the last 2 weeks. My wife, because my wife knows I'm an angry 40-year-old cis white male, right? But I'm a liberal one, so that puts me on the other end of it too. And living in Staten Island, where yesterday it was being like in Beirut, circa 1986. It was the fireworks I haven't heard in 2 decades like this, like it was yesterday.
Wow.
That tells me that was how people were sort of letting out their frustration, their feelings, and everyone's feeling certain ways. But what's been going well is CBSI has started to they've partnered up with Cover Price. Matt DeVoe, who I think is a great guy, I followed him back on CBSI. They have been actually doing this really streamlined version, and I was looking at their variant watch, which I really like how they've worked on this column. And as I was looking at their 10 variants, I think 3 of the variants on the list were my eBay listings that sold that week. So
bang bang.
Yeah.
What's up?
So here's one. This is that. This is obviously the Miles Morales and Gwen, the issue 12. Richard Isanov. We spoke about this. Nico, I can't tell you the number of books that you and I spoke about back on our Spider-Man show that popped after that Miles Morales announcement. It's crazy. So
yeah, it was a hell of a buying list for the record.
If you go back and listen to that, please do, because go back and listen to the earlier shows. Go back and scroll through Twitter. Go back and read Nico's earlier columns, because there are some great goodies. Even MeWe, which I got an announcement from MeWe. They've officially taken me off their search stream because I haven't contributed in 6 months. Oh, boo-hoo.
Player hater.
Yeah. Good morning, by the way, everyone popping in right now. So here's one book. Here's the Peach Momoko, that version. So that Spider-Man 12 ended up going for $313 that sold for in raw condition. It was a beautiful book. I would say it was probably a 9.6. It had not even a nick, but it had a little white spot on the on like the bottom lower corner. This Peach Momoko Strange Academy one I sold with the certificate on it. It ended up going for $201 on June 3rd. And again, raw, near mint. I had the certificate on the time. I still have the trade copy, and I have another raw copy as well of this one. And then finally, that Bounty Hunters book, the highest graded 9.8 went for $300. I ended up selling that for $285, and that was a raw copy of that as well. So those books are selling. And the book they didn't have on there was, I even sold a Venom 3 1-25. I got $225 for that too. So 4 raw books just paid for my
Lord of mercy.
1 week. My wife was like very happy. She's like, "Did you pay for our vacation with 4 comics?" And I'm like, "Yeah." So that's why you can deal with my taking up the office. But please note that you don't always have to slab books, but you have to hit while the iron's hot. And this has been a time where Marvel is putting out a lot of digital editions. We'll talk about that in a minute. What does that mean for spec? DC books have not been really heavy spec worthy, except for, I think we didn't even get to talk about Gold Lantern. We won't talk about Gold Lantern, but because Legion spec is, I'm a big Legion fan, but if you're buying into Gold Lantern, like that's desperation right there. And please do not buy that 1-25 single copy of Gold Lantern, because Gold Lantern appeared in so many books before that. I'm not going to rehash that. He was all over the covers of that book. Monster Boy is the interesting one. I think Monster Boy is starting to hit a chord from people who are reading that. He turns into any kind of monster, from Frankenstein to like alien type monsters. So look for Monster Boy appearances as well. But what I really wanted to do today, Nico, is I want to run through some pickups that we got. A couple things that I haven't gone crazy, but I did pick up some books that have been on the radar a little bit. First of all, a great read. That Texas Blood. I don't know if you saw it. This is. I'll go a little bigger on me. Hold on. I hope I still remember how to do this. Okay, there we go.
Nice.
Okay. So that Texas Blood had 2 covers. One by Daddy Sean Phillips and one by Jacob Phillips as well. Jacob Phillips is the son of Sean Phillips, who does the criminal books with Brew Baker. Great. Like Texas seems to be putting out some great like crime books. Donnie Cates loves using Texas as well. So this was a nice read. If you didn't check it out, you could definitely see it being like a Coen Brothers type movie down the line. I'm going to talk about this book a little more, but I've been grabbing these cheap copies all over the place. This Ultimate Spider-Man 33, and I'll tell you in a minute why you're going to want to grab this book. This is also, I'll show you the panel in this book. So you don't get a full Venom appearance, but you get this cover that people know about. This is 33, 34, 35, 36, 37. All 5 of the books in that Ultimate Spider-Man Venom run. You're going to start seeing these pop. Those Ultimate books beside Miles Morales are popping right now. I'll show you a panel in a bit. Here's a book you love, Nico. I know because I've seen you write about it.
I don't have one. I gave it to John Z. We went picking together, and he doesn't even know that he has it.
Oh, it's a beauty. I found a copy that I thought was good to jump on. David Aha, who I love. We know that the Aha Fraction run is probably going to be a pretty big influence, but also Kelly Thompson's run on this, and also maybe Jeff Lemire's run. And I've been picking up those cheaper copies as well. This is actually a takeoff on the Hawkeye one cover, where he's across the purple cover, I think, and in the same exact pose. But everybody loves Kate Bishop. You know, that's something we've spoken about. Here's one that I actually got through Midtown for $18. Look at this.
Oh, wow.
After Invincible got announced, this is the Eric Larson variant of Invincible Returns, super low print run. As soon as we saw Invincible, you know, they announced it's going to be a hyperkinetic, violent cartoon. And then I started hearing whisperings that we may get live action and an animated version. Invincible Fever is going to be big. I've spoken about the preview books. I've spoken about 75, that black and white variant. Keep picking up those Invincibles as you come. But if you ever see this one, this is that low print run Invincible Returns when it popped out. And again, there's a C cover too, I think, on this as well. Here's just a cool book from my youth. I don't know. Do you know these books, Nico? Have you ever seen these?
No.
So Heroes World catalog. So these are kind of cool. So Heroes World was a company back in the day, and this was, I guess, late 70s, early 80s. They actually took these catalogs, and they actually have all full art in them, and it's like almost like those old Toys R Us catalogs, but they're illustrated catalogs of all Star Wars, Spider-Man, all these things that came back. Lord of the Rings on the back cover over here. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, these are two catalogs that came out at the time. Really beautiful art in here that I just read that maybe they'll remaster this art at some point and put in like a one of those big tape hardcover editions. But this is issue 2, issue 1. There are only 2 of them that actually came out, but they're basically catalogs that that were sort of, if you were a kid and got the Sears catalog growing up as a kid as well, those are things that were really kind of cool to look at. I'm starting to buy in a little bit on Warhammer. I am not a gamer guy. I don't know a lot about Warhammer, but there was a Zero. This was a free insert, the Warhammer Zero, and then there were 2 books that came out from Boom as well. Both Warhammer Zero, Warhammer 40,000 Zero. This is going to be a series that that is going to be a whole universe that was acquired. I'm trying to think if it was Kieran Gillen or someone, but maybe Matt Rosenberg. Someone's going to be doing the writing on this Warhammer series. So you want to look for these Zero issues. They're still cheap. They're still available. You can pick them up anywhere. But that was pretty much. I didn't go crazy buying things. I found a couple. I'm going to put you back here, Nico. I found a couple cheap slabs I'm going to talk about, including one for Descender and another book that just got announced a couple days ago that hopefully when our next show comes out that they will arrive by then. But I want to also tell you that it's really important that you not run to eBay, buy those slabs up, look online and bookmark those shops that tend to have, there are a lot of CGC slab companies that all they do is sell those books. And some of those books start to just sort of like languish in there, and you can find some great bargains. So instead of fighting for near mint raw copies, I've been advocating finding copies between the $40 to $60 range of 9.8s. And I think there's money to be made on those. I mean, you can triple your money, and when something hits on that really easily. So don't rush off to eBay. And I hate to see like those eBay sales, especially when you get those alerts, right? Those alerts pop up, and all of a sudden people are buying across the board. And yet, magic moments. Invincible, to me, one of the best superhero runs. You know, Walking Dead always gets all this credit, but let's give Robert Kirkman a little credit here, because this guy has created 2 of the seminal books. Probably the all-time best zombie undead book of all time, and probably one of the best underrated superhero books. For those who never read Invincible, go back, buy the trade, read it online, check it out. It's pretty incredible. All right, let's go back, and so let's talk about some other things that popped out this week, Nico. I'm going to put us back on the full screen layout of this one. So here are some of the books that popped out. Devil's Highway. If you haven't been looking at AWA Upshot, and that's the Artists, Writers, Artisans, and Upshot is their comic imprint on that. Devil's Highway is a story, starts out, it's about a trucker serial killer, and it ends up that there's going to be a conspiracy where there's a whole network across the trucker routes of serial killers along this route. I love this kind of conspiracy-driven crime novel. I can tell you that everything from AWAF shot Resistance was amazing. Start looking at this book. And this book, you know, I feel a little badly for this company. They came out right in the heart of sort of the quarantine, but find these books, buy them. This is a 1 to 5 like mini, and I would say it's something you want to look for. The plot, I've been a huge fan of. This is that old paperback variant cover that they did for issue 5. Great horror series. This is from the Nightfall imprint of Vault Comics. By the way, and not only is Vault Comics putting out great books, they're actually one standing behind and hiring different, very diverse creators behind the scenes. And they actually have also been doing a lot of stuff by pushing out horror, sci-fi, and fantasy. 3 genres that I love to see more of in comics. And we all know about, if anyone's been on Twitter, you've seen a lot of the sort of, and I guess we can talk a little bit about this, Nico, before we move on. A lot of accusations flying out lately about creators, and particularly about women creators being sort of groomed, like showing up at Comic Cons, young female creators being sort of taken under the wing per se of these really like well-known creators. Like Warren Ellis was allegedly one of these people who they came out and told these stories about Warren Ellis, and he's been someone who's been a huge advocate of young talent. But it seems like there's a lot of cancel culture going on right now that we're seeing. And I don't want to say cancel culture, you know, I don't want to get political on it, but to me, instead of taking things down, and believe me, I'm not talking about Confederate war statues or the flag. I'm talking about statues that, you know, someone went to the Little Mermaid statue in Denmark and actually wrote "fish racist" on this statue. But that statue had been decapitated twice before that anyway. So, but I think the big thing, I went to a museum exhibit, and they put up, before you walked in this museum, these were statues from the 1900s that all about eugenics. And if you don't know about eugenics, it's just sort of about what this woman had traveled to different cultures and really exaggerated the features of different people from Asian countries, from African countries. And it was kind of offensive and tasteless. And they put these statues away in the 1960s. They actually took them out about 5 years ago. And what they did was they put signs up that put them in the context of the times, very similar to what they just did with Gone with the Wind, what they've done with the old Warner Brothers cartoons, which were very racist against Japanese. But they put up a sign and said this was a sign of what was happening at the time historically. And if you just erase these things from history, no one will ever learn from them. And eventually you'll have a sort of like a backslide back into that. So that's my little diatribe. I'm sure you have something to say on that. And we know the old Detective Comics, right? The Egg Foo and those characters that popped up. And welcome, Mark. So Mark just joined us as well. We're up to 17 over here. Thanks for joining us. It's going to be a long show, so make sure you get your coffee, settle in.
Well, Gary, can you talk about the miniseries Truth?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah. That's.
I've got it. Hold on.
Yeah.
Let's see here. I know I got one somewhere. Yeah.
Because I think this is important. They're like $15.
Yeah.
And I think it's historically relevant to like our time and what's going on. I think it's absolutely got a shot of being a storyline in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And they're not easy to find. They're easy to find on eBay right now, but they're not easy to find in the wild. I can't believe no one's made a run on this book. It makes no sense to me with all of the stuff that, people are buying, like just random Miles books because he's on the cover of it's like, who cares?
I have a rant on that. Don't worry. We'll get to that.
Yeah, but that people aren't
Can you talk a little bit about
these up.
What is it? What can you talk a little bit about that for those who may not be familiar, Nico? What?
Yeah, it's a 6-part miniseries that turned into a 7-part miniseries, which means, as always, I like the 1 and I like the 7.
Yeah, especially when it was solicited as a 6, right? Now all of a sudden,
solicited as a 6, and I think that will lead to. And I haven't looked at the Comic-Con direct distribution Northern America numbers, but I assume that will lead to. People who aren't really good at reading books in a timely fashion being like, oh yeah, I'll take issues 1 through 6 and not purchasing issue 7, not ordering issue 7. But, it focused around when you talked about eugenics, the idea popped up in my head. It focused around testing super soldier serum on a character who is actually the great grandfather of Iron Patriot.
Right. Is that what he? Yeah, I think it's a great grandfather. I don't think it's a grandfather. I think it's a great grandfather.
I think it's a great grandfather, but
and similar to the Tuskegee testing, right? The testing that was done with African American airmen. Yeah.
Very, very similar. So that story, I think, has been rumored to be part of the Falcon and Winter Soldier television series. That was, shortly after it was announced at SDCC or D23. I realize it's been 3.5 months since the COVID quarantine stuff started, and I feel like it's been 3.5 years. So I've sort of lost all sense of when things happened at all.
Of course, yeah. Time is now a concept that's very ethereal for everybody. What month are we in? What day?
Yeah, right. So, but I love that book. I think if you don't have them in your PC, you do yourself a service and buy one for $15 on eBay. I hope that they're not all of a sudden, $99, because that happens with books these days. It's like, wait, that book's quadrupled in price.
Nico, you just by mentioning it, you just sold that on eBay. So I know.
Yeah. Well, you want to keep talking about
right? The Crew, which was a sort of a militant take. It was, but it's Priest, and to me, one of the most underrated writers in the game. I loved his Quantum in Woody Run. It was hysterical. If you ever read that back in the day, but again, dealing with real world issues through the lens of super heroics. And I'm going to talk a little bit about another imprint that might be coming back. We heard some because of the Black Lives Matter movement. We've seen a little movement on this imprint, and we've spoken about this, and I'm sure you'll know what it is when I bring it up in a little bit. But also, I like the idea of that Falcon and the Winter Soldier, eventually one of those guys moving into that, and I'm thinking it's going to be Falcon moving to that Captain America role right down the line in that series, and that whole Captain America and the Mighty Avengers, the Al Ewing series. Falcon becoming Captain America, Who Will Wield the Shield was one of those books as well. So there's a lot of fun spec to come out of there. And we'll talk a little bit about that. We'll do a Marvel MCU once those books start to come out closer in the fall. I think they've been pushed back to as well. So let's go back. Let's look at some other things that have been going on. Books that I picked up this week. Back to the full screen. The plot. Did you see this book this week, Nico?
No, it's awesome looking.
So Amigo Comics, Ezekiel Heim Zombie Hunter. One, I just love the copy, and look in his sunglasses. Look at the reflection. You can actually see the zombies in the sunglasses. Great cover. Victor Santos, Alberto Hernandez. I grabbed 3 of these from Midtown. I haven't had my Midtown order. That's why you're only looking at pictures and not this. But so I haven't gotten a chance to read it yet, but I've heard great things about it. Might be a low print run. Looks like a fun book. This was the Buffy 15. This was the 1 to 25. Tough book to find, and already I see some some sales popping up on this. I know Buffy is a funny property. It's Boom sort of now. It's their sort of their crown jewel of their along with Power Rangers of their licensed properties. They're really pushing this. At the end of this book, you find out that Xander has become the new master of the vampires. The issue before, we saw that Willow pops back, and maybe it's the Willow from the TV universe. So starting to tie in a lot of things with these Buffy books. Hold on to these. Hold on to those Chosen One issues. Another fun book to look for.
Hey, Gary, with respect to the Buffy stuff, do you think that the Whedon controversy from this week? That was this week, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Again, I've lost all sense of time and space. That will adversely impact the property. I remember they were supposed to do something with it. Remember, there was they're going to do another TV show, or you know what I mean.
So you ready for rant number 1? So well, first
of all, I'm ready.
Yeah,
all ears, bro.
To answer that question, I'm thinking the Buffy books may almost be anthology type books, because the way they keep introducing new Slayers and Slayers throughout history, I think would be a really interesting approach on that, to take, not just rebooting Buffy, but rebooting it in a way that's a new way to approach it, almost anthology style. I think could work really well. And we've seen about 10 to 12 new Slayers coming out throughout history. What an interesting way to approach that, and sort of have, maybe the main storyline, but then flashbacks through the Slayers throughout history. So I think that's one way to go. In terms of the Joss Whedon stuff, again, I don't want to, I saw a thumbs down before we even started, which I love, Nico, that someone is so angry. We've been gone 3 weeks. Someone's so angry that they have to go find us, click on YouTube, and thumbs down us before we even start.
Means a lot to me.
And I thank all those people like Carter Lee. We were just talking about Drunken Chat being back, Mel being back, and I want to, you know, I'm the king of the segue, but I'll remember where I was talking. We're going to give a shout out to not Mel, but someone else on that Drunken Chat show who's been doing an amazing job, and I feel like he's
like Mel too.
From another mother, without a doubt. We know.
Yeah, we like Mel too. Please don't get us wrong.
Oh no, Mel's dead to me. No, he didn't. You know what? A couple of weeks ago, I'm like, Mel, you didn't invite me, and then I realized I had turned my Hangouts off because I'd been in a comic group, and it had gotten so bad that I just turned my alerts off. So, so maybe one day we'll be reunited and it'll feel so good. But the job
united and we feel so good.
Yeah, we karaoke it. So the Joss Whedon stuff. So those who don't know, the actor who played Cyborg came out and said, I retract everything I said back at San Diego Comic-Con. He was sitting next to Jason Momoa and he was like praising Joss Whedon, and there was like a freeze frame shot of like Jason Momoa looking angry about it. But no one else has come out and said anything about Whedon. And look, I've heard things about both Jeff Johns, Joss Whedon, like all these characters these guys who sort of are heavy-handed. And I'll talk about Jeff Johns in a little bit because he's an interesting cat, and we'll talk about him with his show pretty soon. But I don't think there's a huge movement against Joss Whedon overall. I think there's a huge movement against Joss Whedon with the release the Snyder Cut people. And you know what's really funny? I'm a word guy, right? Like I'm an English guy. I do a lot of reading, and I love to play with anagrams. And I was playing with the anagram of release the Snyder Cut, and if you take the letters and release the Snyder Cut, it actually is the sedentary recluse. And that reminds me of the exact kind of people someone sitting on a chair in their basement, getting upset, not having any big sort of friend network, and sitting in this online presence being like, we're together. We want the Zack Snyder Cut release. We got it. Now let's move on. I saw them attacking Shazam and showing the scene in Shazam where Shazam is like throwing things at Savannah. And they're like, this is not the Shazam that we know. And somebody said, Shazam is a kid's brain in this body. So this is exactly what a kid would do who was terrified. And they're looking at the David Ayers Suicide Squad cut, and they're looking at all the, it's not about the Snyder cut of this movie. Oh, and by the way, a big F you to Dean Cain too, but that's a whole nother thing. It's not about releasing, this movie. It's about our voice was heard, and now we're moving on to the next thing. And that's what it is. It's just sort of like angry minority of people who need their voices heard in a way, and this is their platform. And life is too short for this kind of stuff. It's crazy. People were so. I don't play video games, but I guess The Last of Us 2, was that something? I don't want to do any spoiler alerts on this for those who play video games, but I guess something happened in that, and people have attacked and said, I'm going to come to your house and kill you and slit your throat, to one of the female voice actors in this video game. This is where we are right now. And it's so like, see, Nico, you set me off now, Nico. I was waiting for when we get to Thor, but now you set me off already on this.
All right. Hey, I can't. I might have sold them all, but I like that first appearance of Buffy in the Dark Horse Presents run. I mean, we've seen like the Aliens and Predator books. All of a sudden, this week they took off.
Yeah.
We've seen the like Grendel books go crazy, the Crow books go crazy, and like it's in that nostalgia wheel. The big difference is they sell books month to month. So, I don't know why it hasn't gone bananas. If those guys are just readers or gals or readers that are picking up the monthly issues, but I should have probably bought a 9.8 before I ran my mouth. But it's just an interesting book for me. I don't know if the news of there being like some sort of television show or movie was I didn't look before we got on.
Yeah,
because I think we were going to talk about it.
Yeah,
but remember that was a thing like a year and a half ago. So
yeah, and
interesting though.
And like I said, the big thing now is it's a waiting game, and now we started to see in the last few weeks, like all of a sudden, all these properties, right, started to really start like being announced and rolling down, because now it's not over yet, but people think it's over. Thank you, Carter Lee. I appreciate that. I'll put that up. I'll put a comment on there. And then in the meantime, I'm going to go back to some of this. Okay, so here's some other books that we picked up, Nico. This is great. I love this. This is why we just like Nico and I, we're going to show books. We're going to shoot the shit, and we're going to have some great things.
You know what the funniest part is? I just have these books randomly behind me. Most of my stuff's downstairs, and still find topical nonsense to pull out.
Oh, and if you ever freeze frame our shots off here, you can always see. I always throw books on that we spoke about previously.
Hey, is that the second print of that Hawkeye 9?
No, it isn't. Unfortunately, it's the first one. But I know that.
Do you know what that book's selling for now?
Yeah, but that's an iconic cover. And if you can, again, some of those, well, okay, let's talk about this a little bit. So
dude, the 9/8's like $150, $200. Or I'm sorry, I lied. The second print is like $150, $200. Somebody showed me that yesterday. They're like, look what I sold. And then I was like, that's crazy. And then another person in the same group chat was like, I sold one for even more money. And I mean, dude, I almost spilled my drink.
So let's talk a little bit about.
I like that book, but I never thought that other people would like it. And now I'm excited.
So I'm excited about two things on that. So one thing is this second print phenomenon is like okay, I can get behind newsstands, I can get behind Canadian price variants. I was never really big behind the DCU variants, but they have collectors like foreign editions we've spoken about. Second prints are interesting to me. Second prints should have value, but second prints of books because of scarcity. But I never think a second print of a book where you introduce a new character should be considered a first appearance of that character, which I'm starting to see now. And that's what's driving me crazy. No, the first appearance of a character is that first appearance in the book. We're not going to talk cameo versus full first or cover. We're going to talk about a book that was the first appearance. That should inherently, I don't care if there were more copies of that than a second print that came out, because the first print should inherently have more value than a second print where that is not the first appearance of that character anymore. So I love a great cover. I love, change the color up on a cover. Give me interior art on the cover. That's when you should sort of pop it up a little. But that's what's driving me crazy a little bit. And I'm going to show, like here, I wasn't even going to show these, but so I've been picking up, before we even started, I went on one of my sites that has thousands and thousands of books, and you can go down these books, and I'll tell you about it. If you know the site, I'm not going to tell you what the site is, but if you know the site, they put a green and they put a color code up, so you can see how many copies they have of a book. Red means like they have one left. Green means they have tons of them, and they price according to how many books they have left. So I always go on that site, I check it out, I pull it out. And so I've been pulling out like second prints, like, okay, I pulled that Spider-Man second print, right? Like, because this again, like Miles Morales, this is the first meeting of Pete and Miles. I've been pulling second prints of the Miles Morales Spider-Man series again. And again, these aren't first appearances. These are just covers like that Cataclysm cover. I'll go bigger a second. The Cataclysm cover for Cataclysm Spider-Man second print.
Yeah, dude, I love those Cataclysm.
That's a great book, and I spoke about and I'll show you. And
I like the one with the big Galactus head on it.
Oh, that whole series of Cataclysm. Second print of the Spider-Man of the annual. Second print of the Spider-Man of Spider-Man 1. Different covers: Miles Morales Spider-Man, the Ultimate Comics Spider-Man, which looks exactly like that one, but right, it's black cover versus white cover. And these books, remember, Nico, we were flipping through and saying like these books were so cheap when we were talking about them. And I have to say, I picked up 5 sets of 1 to 10 of near mint plus copies right around that time we were talking about it. And there are first appearances in here. But anyway, I got off track. Second prints for me, they have great value, but don't tell me that the second print of a character who is introduced is a first appearance. That's straight out bullshit. That is not a first appearance of a character. Maybe the first cover of a character, maybe something else, but absolutely not. And Larry's saying here, if the second print has the character on the cover when the first doesn't, I think it's special. And Larry, I think we're saying the same exact thing here. That's what I'm saying as well. But I never, if it's a first appearance, and like Null is obviously the character that everybody talks about in terms of that. I'm going to talk about another character in a minute. and maybe I wonder if it's sort of maybe I'm going to contradict myself, but we'll look at it in a minute, Nico. Let's go back and look at some of these books. This poor cover's been up here for a while. So here's a series called Kids.
Take down Larry's comment.
Oh yeah, I'm going to take it down in a second. Hold on, I'm trying to get back to where I was. Did I go? Hold on. Let me get here. I lost you for a minute, Nico. Did I lose you? Did I lose everybody? Here. Oh, you're still there. Okay.
Yeah.
For some reason, I don't see you on my. I'm going to stop sharing. I lost my other tab here. This is really weird. Keep talking. Well, I'm going to keep talking while I figure this out, Nico. 1 second.
All right. Well, here. If it's going to take you a minute, I can run.
Yeah, show some stuff a minute.
I can run through books. Will you take Larry's thing down?
Yeah. Okay, hold on. I got to stop sharing a minute. Yeah, that's who I can't get. For some reason, I can't get into Larry's. I lost my whole tab on here.
Oh, you just go to live comments.
Yeah, no. I mean, I can't see the one we were in on.
Oh, well, okay. Here, we'll just go while we're at it. So
yeah.
I have been grabbing. Should I continue with the Star Wars nonsense?
Yeah, continue.
So like I said, I buy Star Wars books, and sometimes I'll pay. Like I paid ratio for this. It's Dr. Afro 1, the variant. I thought that just made sense to pay ratio for it. Sometimes I won't pay ratio. Like I paid $8 for this one. I was happy to do it. Or $9 for this one. $9 for this one. They're all the variants of Darth Maul. I think Darth Maul's got a built-in fan base. I'll never lose money on it. This is the 3 variant, Darth Maul. This is 3 regular old Cad Bane, I think. Darth Bane, somebody Bane person. I don't really know. The cool thing is you find these like crazy things, like this one's autographed. I just randomly snagged it for a whopping $6. Woohoo! And I was happy about it. And what I like to do is, again, magazine nonsense, right? So it's got Ahsoka on it. It's a magazine from the Clone Wars. I'll take it. Somebody's going to buy it. I'll wait for the TV show to list them. I certainly don't know what the hell they are or if they're important. But people that do told me that was a thing. And beyond just like the Rebels and the Star Wars Insider and the Clone Wars magazines that have like Sabine Wren or Ahsoka Tano or whatever on it, I try to buy the subscription covers, right? So like now, what am I paying for it? Cover price for all of these. All the little like subscription covers, I just snag them. What you may want to do is stick it in your saved search history on eBay so that you can find them. This was, I think, the first appearance of the Clone Wars in like print format, because this, but I might have that screwed up. There's actually a comic book in here with Yoda, but it's the number 1 and. The other thing I'll do is like dig in deep on like these romance books, right? So I like St. John's. This is my favorite buy in forever. It's a St. John's cover where clearly there was some sort of domestic battery incident. It is a man's world. And what she say here? She fought her desires. Apparently, she also fought this idiot and still stayed with him after he beat her up.
Nico, can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you well.
Are people still in the chat? Can I hear? Because for some reason, my StreamYard tab disappeared entirely, but somehow I hope we're still, I don't know if we're still live.
It says we're live.
It says we're live and people are commenting. I just closed all my tabs and I still hear you, but I don't see any of my, I can't figure out where this window went.
Well, why don't you drop off and drop back on? I'll stay on.
Okay, yeah, you stay on. That should work, right?
I think so. I'm not a technological wizard.
Let's see what happens. I just hope we don't lose our whole window, but I'm going to try to pop it.
We'll talk about things that only interest George. Yeah.
All right.
We're talking Golden Age romance.
I'm entering the broadcast studio. Hold on. Let's see what happens.
You never left.
It's very weird. Oh.
And he's gone. Okay, so now you're stuck with me. So what I'll do, he's back.
I'm back.
Hey, that didn't work out well. I'll go and grab these like Golden Age romance books. Like I paid $24 for this one. I basically will look for the 10 centers, right? This one's got a date stamp that somebody circled on it. And I try to stick with St. John, like I'll go for certain publishers or key books. So this is a great cover. This was early Kirby, and they're just easy sellers. The buy-in's like $20 a piece, or in this case, $16. I've got them in descending order. Price tag. Gary, are you back? You can talk.
Yeah. Okay.
Echoing.
I'll take care of that.
Oh, Lord of mercy.
Oh, God.
I don't know what's happening.
Hold on 1 second.
Sweet Jesus. Okay. Yeah. So, again, Golden Age, romance comics. My buy-in's like $15 on this stuff. And it's really a matter of checking the people that know far more than me. I like the Atlas books, the St. John's books, the ones that have like ridiculous covers. Like, what's this little thing say here? Like, someone's cheating. There's infidelity. It's very sad. Lots of infidelity. St. John's, even the photo covers, which usually aren't worth crap if they're St. John's, money books, right? So the doo-wop, kind of like 1950s sort of stuff, early Kirby with the young romance. These youthful romance covers are apparently people like them. You can just pop them off easy. You can do this stuff in lots. My buy-in is $8 on this. Are you back, buddy? Realistic. All the ones that are the publishing company Realistic are a win. They're just easy money. And basically what I do is I try to look for the publisher, right? Hone in on the good publishers, hone in on the 10-cent ones, and that's where the cash can be made. They don't necessarily need to be pretty to turn $6 into $50, and I think that's just kind of like smart money on a lot of that stuff. I'm going to keep going since Gary's not here. Other things I'll do, right? Like I picked up a Ranger Comics for $35 because somebody didn't know that like these Ranger Comics are incredibly valuable. This is a first appearance of somebody who I don't know who that one is. I like all of these old war covers. I think it's all about cover appeal for this stuff. So this is a Famous Funnies, just like the color scheme. Paid $14 for that. May have overpaid. $20. Gary's back, hopefully. First Moon Dragon, not working. There goes Gary, son of a bean. I still think there's hope for Adam Warlock in the long term in the aggregate. $100. I usually wouldn't buy this book, but for $100 raw, and it'll press well. I think it was a win. You doing okay, buddy?
Yeah.
I'm just gonna keep talking as we go. So when it comes to like X-Men stuff, I bought these recently. First prints of God Loves, Man Kills. Unlike a lot of first prints, it actually says first print on the inside cover. You always got to check there were like 12 printings, and to sort of look back at what Gary was talking about earlier. First printings matter, right? Nobody wants the 12th print, even if there's like look at Bone, for example. Nobody wants the 19th print, even if there is a very small print run. That's only sort of been a newer manifestation of, I think, younger collectors who kind of understand but don't really understand when that matters and when it doesn't. And when it's older books like this, I think it's important to kind of hone in on the first prints and go first print or go home, unless, as Larry discussed earlier, there's a different cover that really provides like a first cover appearance or something striking and startling. I mean, use your intuition. I promise your gut will not do you wrong. I thought that these were, this goes to show you George does not necessarily do a good job all the time. I thought this was John Tyler Christopher because of the color scheme. It's clearly not, but I've been buying these at like $3 a piece, trying to put together sets. Not John Tyler Christopher, but I still screw up. And from time to time, I didn't look at what these are going for on eBay. I love this one. I think it's gorgeous. Some of the other ones are much more plain Jane. As a smart buy, I like Sunfire. I think as a minority character of Asian descent, he's got a lot of potential to be cast in a film. This one I paid $90 for because it was in beautiful shape. I don't know if you can see just how nice that is for a Silver Age, but probably an 8.5. Maybe I get lucky and it's a 9.0. We shall see. I will still snag these for like $10, $12 as long as they're 9.8 candidates. Like Gary and I talked about before, I've been grabbing these suckers, the Horsemen, as a long-term play because I think they've got TV film potential. And I like anything Weapon X at this point, right? There's very little buy-in on, so this was $10. I've been grabbing as many of them as I can get my hands on. My buddy Gary, son of a bean. Hey, Gary, I wonder if you can log in from a different computer. Gary's coming back from a different computer, and you're stuck with me in the aggregate, and I apologize in advance. I don't really have much stuff planned, so I'm basically just showing you the stacks of crap that I bought this weekend. And Gary's like, I have 200 slides. I was like, okay. So one of the books that I think makes sense that nobody talks about is the first appearance of the Prowler, right? So everyone's going bananas over Miles Morales stuff. We know that if there's a live action film made, that you're going to have Childish Gambino, Donald Glover, as the character who is Miles' uncle. There was that sort of foreshadowing of like, this is what we'd like to do in the long term. Was it Far From Home? Homecoming? I can't remember. I think he'll be exceptional and it'll create a situation where you have a young Miles Morales on the silver screen who is faced with the choice. He can either go fast money. I was talking about why I think this is a smart buy.
That's great. You know what? In fact, I have a couple screens of that. Sorry, guys. For some reason, every time my Chrome would disappear and it kept putting me up on more and more. So I was on 3 things on the bottom, and every time I started to come in. So I apologize, guys. Those thumbs down are deserved for that audio thing. But I heard you the whole time.
Yeah, the reason I think that's a smart buy is because it creates a situation where whoever's that character, whoever's playing Miles Morales, is faced with the choice. He can either live a principled life, right? Go the way of his father, who's a police officer, trying to do the right thing in a world where he's often faced with tough choices, or he can go the way of his uncle, fast money, Childish Gambino. This is America, right? And I think that's beautiful. And we've seen how collectors love, that sort of moral choice, right? Like we saw it in the Black Panther film, and we saw, just how Killmonger's character was done well and is alluring, right? I mean, it's seductive for a reason. And I think that means people will collect that book. They'll collect that villain. Killmonger, likable character. I think the Prowler will be likable, played by Donald Glover in that same sort of way. You know, not to suggest that that's going to happen, but boy, would it make a lot of sense if it did.
1,000%. And that's, I know that's one of the things that I was looking at here. Like, you know, he had that series, right? That Prowler series. This was one of the variant covers. He also had like
I just picked up the hip hop variant. I think like a Dum Dum. I put it in on eBay and it's already gone. But yeah, super cool book.
Right, and we've seen the Iron Spider, like you talked about, like going the Iron Spider route. But I think as a Prowler, he's so interesting. And again, his first was of course in that Ultimate Comics All New Spider-Man 1 that we showed earlier of that, you know, that version. That's where he pops up first. There's also that variant, which is like I don't think it's going to pick up anywhere as much. That's the Rubio variant for the Prowler one. But again, those are some of those covers that you may want to be on the lookout for. So that was funny because I was going to bring that up for Miles. Again, apologies. I'm going to now I'll rewind now that Nico was able to carry the use a dry erase board. Thanks, TJ. I do have my dry erase board because, you know, all educators have dry erase boards on hand. Let me non-share our screen. Let me go back.
So TJ didn't have to listen to me nonstop. He supports you, but he's like, look, you gotta make him stop.
You know what? If you support me, you have to equally support Nico. We're a package deal on this. That's why we get together. And I saw some other people popping up in the meantime. So now finally, okay, now this book is never going to live up to the hype that it just had. But so this is a series called Kids. It's actually not really a kids friendly book. I was reading through it. They're dropping like some F-bombs in there, but every cover has had a really nice movie homage variant. I love the Jaws copy for this one, but they've had the Lost Boys. They've had the Goonies, which is a very popular one. We know the Power Rangers, Go Power Rangers, a series that just ended. I always look for those movie homage variants. Again, if you're popping in, there are people who just collect Jaws variants. There are people who just collect these type of movie variants. We know somebody, I think on the flip side, right, does all shark covers, right? Doesn't his
John Z?
Yeah, he's the shark covers. So this isn't technically a shark cover, but you know, close enough, right? So this is Kids, again, another independent small press book that was out. I also picked up Firepower this week. It was released as a trade. So this is a volume 1 prelude. And then the free comic book day version is actually the first issue that happens in current days. Speaking about Kirkman, again, this is Kirkman and Chris Samney. I love Chris Samney. His art is always like very different in terms he did the cover as well. So that's a book I grabbed. So now let's talk a little bit about the Marvel digital releases. So we saw when Marvel was coming back, some of their minis went right into digital release. One of them was this Hawkeye Freefall series was actually really well written. It was Matthew Rosenberg, Otto Schmidt on art, who does a lot of Green Arrow stuff. And it essentially took Clint and it brought him way back to his like earlier, like little more shades of gray days. By the end of the book, he's in a position where he's gone up against his allies in the Avengers. He's sort of a man without a country, I would say, in a lot of ways. Also, the other spec on here is anti-spec. Clint at the end, spoiler alert, brings out a demon who takes the Hood's hood away. So at the end, the Hood is just 2 guns and no more Hood anymore. So, wow. So the Hood is no longer a character that's in play after this series, at least. So that was issue 6, digital release. Again, these are going to be interesting because there's going to be no sort of paper copy to have if any characters are introduced in these books. Of course, you can still go back and look a little, like for this next book I'm going to bring up that came out. So let's talk about Star a little. And I'm always very, I'm more than happy to say a mea culpa, right? Like, I will never go back on Wolverine's daughter, Rianne, whatever her name is. I don't think she's ever going to be a character that's viable. I think Charles Soule is one of the biggest flim-flam guys in the game. He's a lawyer, so of course he's a flim-flam guy. Oh, sorry.
Makes a lot of sense.
But he was, you know, hot claws. He was all about the hot claws. He's about Wolverine's daughter. But now, so I just finished reading this series, Star. This is issue 5. It's essentially, it was her being sort of mentored by Scarlet Witch and Carol Danvers. It had the what are these guys called? Not the Black Guard, the Black Order. So the Black Order was chasing her down because we know that right now she possesses the Reality Stone, and I'll talk about that in a minute. At the end of this book, she actually turns on the Scarlet Witch and Carol Danvers. She makes a deal with the Black Order, like, you leave me alone and I'll give you back, because she had done something to Korvax, not Korvac, but whoever the husband is of one of the characters in there. So at the end of this, she sort of takes off, and this is her new costume. She sort of morphs into this. She can morph instantly. She goes behind and says, I'm going to do what I can. So now she's confident. She has a Reality Stone. I've spoken before how she is going to be a part of this thing that's popping up. And I like it. It's a little Black Widowish, I would say, right? This costume,
Absolutely.
Right down to the red hair. But it makes me think of this second print of Captain Marvel. And I just brought up a minute ago, don't chase second prints of first appearances. Something about this red cover and her in the background, and this.
I couldn't find any in high grade, dude. I found like a couple copies, and they were always just like, it looked like someone had mangled them.
So again, this is not a second; it's a third print, and the reason why people still had the second print on the shelves after it came out, and all the hype was out, and everyone knew the hype of Star. So when the third print came around for ordering, those orders dropped significantly. And please also be careful. And this is one of the things that drives me crazy. When you're looking through Comic-Con and you see an issue listed like Captain Marvel 8, like a month after, 2 months after, those aren't necessarily the second or third prints. Those can be reorders of first prints also. So please be aware
of the
number. Like people saying, there are only 800 of this. No, there are 800 of a reorder of the first print. So know what you're talking about before you become an authority on prints. And again, I'm gonna tamp it down a lot, but let's keep going. So I think that's a book to look out for. The third print, even though I said a minute ago, don't chase him, but that's a beautiful cover anyway. I spoke about this Infinite Destiny. So here are now sort of the characters that you should be on the lookout for as we're moving into these annuals. And each annual is going to star one particular person. So Iron Man annual is going to be about Quantum. Quantum was introduced in the Miles Morales. And each of these characters at the end is going to either end up with a stone or have a stone taken away. You're going to have an anti-hero Infinity Watch by the time this is over. And I still think Mephisto is going to be involved in this. But a couple of the things that I was looking at specifically, Amulet was introduced in Ms. Marvel 13. This is one of those characters, again, cheap copies. You can buy these undercover right now. And again, this was the first, I think, Lebanese American hero introduced. I'm not sure if we know what stone he has, but you could sort of maybe figure it out. But we know he currently has a stone in his possession. We also know we've spoken a lot in the past about Contest of the Champions, White Fox. Marvel keeps pushing her. Everyone knows about that beautiful Inhyuk Lee cover. And I think I actually probably have it in a slide coming up. But that's Contest of Champions 1. Cover appearance as well. She's also on one of the other covers for that. There's another copy of that. Looks like I have a few of those, huh? Hold on. So Ghost Rider, the Ed Brisson one, we know Spirit of Pestilence. If you look back, if we go back to this again, let me go back to this way to do it. Hold on, let's see if I can figure this out. If we go back here, so we see Overtime was introduced. I'm going to show that in a minute. Overtime was introduced in a book. Spirit of Corruption. Here's Spirit of Corruption on this cover right here. You can see the blueprint cover. And also, I know there was a Stephanie Hans, that cover as well, which you can see over here. I'll go a little bigger for a second. So the Stephanie Hans, Mother of Demons cover, because you have these Spirits of Pestilence, Spirits of Corruption. I spoke a little bit about they're going to introduce this new spirit based on this guy right here, right? Nemesis is coming back. Ghost Rider 9, he's going to become another spirit in the upcoming Ed Brisson run. Ghost Rider is going to be picking up a lot of speed again. Please look out for that book. So back to here. Let's go back here. So I spoke a little bit about that Overtime character as well. You have Amulets popping up in Spider-Man Annual. You have a classified character in the Avengers Annual. You have Prince of Power, who's in the Guardians of the Galaxy, issue 3. That's a weird character. It's sort of like Hercules used to be called that. He only shows up very briefly. We haven't seen anything because the books are on hiatus. Star's popping up in Spider-Man Annual 2. So at the end of the series, you're going to have the new Infinity Watch coming out. But the character that I thought was the one where it sort of popped out first was in this Infinity Wars Infinity 1, right before this in that series, we saw Adam Warlock release the stones, and then we meet Hector Bautista, who is actually a murderer on death row, about to be put to death. And the stones come popping through. One ends up in the prison. And then all of a sudden he gets, of course, he has the power to stop time, control time. He has a horrible costume. The name Overtime sounds like he's punching a car, like his time card on the way out. But he does currently have that stone. We don't know if he will have it at the end of these annuals, but these are cheap buys. And there was only, if I go back to this, there was only one cover of this book. It was not variant. Infinity Wars, Infinity 1. That was the first appearance of Hector Bautista and as Overtime. So start looking for these. That was that In-Hyuk Lee cover I spoke about. Of course, that variant blew up to extreme values, and we talked about that early on. Contest of Champions. There's Amulet. Okay, so now let's pop on to another book that came out this week. This is another one that's sort of chafing my drawers here. Comics Heating Up is a great site I will endorse. I was doing a Google search on the character who pops up in this book at the end, and we see that Cletus Cassidy has a descendant who popped up earlier in the Absolute, the Carnage, the Ravencroft Carnage series that popped up. He is starring throughout that book, and certain people started to really hype up the Curse of Carnage Ravencroft, and I have not that copy, but I do have a copy. Let's see. Right here, Runes of Ravencroft Carnage. This is the first appearance of this character. Of this, at the bottom, if you look, this is how that series, again, spoiler, this is how that series ends. Two guards are going into Ravencroft. At the end, one shoots the other one. He goes to the spiral, puts his hand on it, and he says, when our Lord Null arrives, we'd really like for you to be there to greet him. So of course, the conjecture is that Cortland Cassidy will be brought back to life as one of the symbiotes, or maybe Null's host stunner. Who knows what's going to happen there? But so again, there were two variants for that. But all of a sudden, a couple of these groups and a couple of people, I'm not going to call out names, but somebody had 50 copies in stock all of a sudden that they might have gotten from one of their other sources, and was selling the 50 copies of the second print of this book for $20, and then $18, $20, $30. You can check out, there was a pump and dump sort of forum category on that as well, where they spoke about those second print, because it's such a low print. That, again, is not the first appearance of this Cortland Cassidy character. He pops up in this book, and this is a variant issue 2. This book, I think it had a run of about 24,000, but because people can sort of monopolize one sort of a run of all the books on something, I think, again, that was what I brought up. Only 800 copies of this. No, there were copies reordered of other first prints of things.
Hey, does this mean we're going to have stalkers on the show and stuff, and they're going to be all mad because you told them that what they were doing was fucking bullshit? It's going to be
at this point, I don't care. And like I said, what I'm not going to do is call out people in general, because I don't care. They know who they are.
Sure, but I'm excited about that. That's exciting. I need some excitement during COVID.
They're driving me crazy. So
come and get it. You can tell me who it is later.
Yeah, I will. He brings a citrusy tear to my eye. But anyway, another thing that happened in this book was at the end we saw the creation of Janus, Janus, and these disparate characters all are like this in the shadowy cabal. First of all, Frank Thierry, not my favorite writer. He's known for doing that Space Punisher back in the day. He's very like grim and gritty type things. But look at these characters he brought in. G.W. Bridge, who we know back from the old six-pack, right? Back with Cable. Contessa Valentina Allegra de Fontaine, who we know from the old S.H.I.E.L.D. series.
Really good.
Gracias. James McDonald Hudson from Alpha Flight. Malcolm Colcord, who last we saw, he had been scarred, burnt, and left chained to a radiator. So I don't know how he's coming back, but he's from Frank Thierry's Weapon X series. Manica Rappaccini, who is the scientist supreme of AIM. And then finally, Madame Viper, who we know back from those Hydra days. So we have this cabal of sort of shadowy figures, like sort of the opposite of what they're doing over in DC, right? With Bendis is eliminating all the spy agencies. It looks like Frank Thierry's bringing them all together. So we're going to see more of that group as well. But again, that's their first appearance coming together. I'm never big on a group being brought together, but some of those characters may be of interest as well. And then, so these were released digitally, right? Another book released digitally was this Marvel Snapshot. They did a Captain America Mind Bomb. And if you don't know the original Captain America Mind Bomb, it was, and I'll show you a picture in a minute. It was Red Skull drops this mind bomb on I think it was I want to say Detroit or somewhere, and it was a Falcon and Captain America are going into the city and saving people. These are street level stories of what happened to civilians during this time. And it talks about how it decimated the city, and it told the story of one teenage kid growing up in an urban environment, and he was recruited by Hydra to work, or AIM maybe, to work on the Mad Bomb, like for a new Mad Bomb years later, and he was really undercover. And it's this character right here. Hold on, let me share him back into the stream. And I don't know if he's going to pop back into play again at some point. But this kid down here, and they even talk about his name, Philip Waterhouse. And by the end, he's working for Tony Stark. He's this like technological genius. So he pops up in this. He's a main point of view character within the story. So these are the kind of things that I think are kind of interesting to look at. Characters that sort of no one's looking at, and under the radar sort of cover. Look for some of those series as well as you're popping through. So now let's have a little fun, Nico. We've been doing the warm up. We've been doing the appetizers. If you need to fill your coffee up or anything, feel free at this point. I want to get into a little bit of first another book. So I spoke about this book a little, and this is the and I don't know if it's going to do anything because it came out right as the end of the beginning of the quarantine. So we saw Jed MacKay, who's writing that Black Cat series, which has been a fun series. It's sort of like Caper series. At the end of that, they introduced this Iron Cat. Really cool design. Like, we've seen a lot of different designs pop up. She goes in, she robs Tony Stark at the end. We see the last page bringing this up. It was these two books came out. It was a J. Scott Campbell on this side, and then it was a Greg Land zombie. It's a full first at the end over there. And then actually in the next issue is going to be, and that's coming out very soon, and that's why this is brought up again. We sort of see that's the cover on that next issue, and that's again one of those In-Hyuk Lee characters. So cheap covers you can buy over here. These Black Cat covers, I got them from TFAW for like $280 or whatever, $320, whatever it was. I got a couple copies of each. Character, cool cover on the back. She's popping up. Who knows? She may disappear quickly. But these are those kind of characters that you can make some nice, quick money on. $15 off a $250 book. To me, that's worth it, right? When you're selling, especially if you're going to go be shipping out things a lot. So look out for that character as well. I'm not going to get into this. This was some of the Miles Morales stuff from City at War. But again, the Miles Morales from PlayStation was introduced in City at War in some of those early issues. Go on my Twitter page, read more about it. We see Peter and Miles. This is just the beginning, and he's going to be the star of this. He did pop up first in the Spider-Geddon Zero issue as well. So that is the first appearance of 1048 Miles Morales. It's even labeled on there. So you can see, so that's where he actually pops up first. He gets bitten by the spider and the powers in the City at War series. So that's something to look at as well. I brought up Survive, early Miles Morales series, where he puts together that new Ultimates group that which is made up of Bombshell, who I really like a lot, one of those characters that came over from the Ultimate Universe. This is that variant of that Survive series. I like this all-new Ultimates 3 cover, one that may not be as well known. I talked about the Prowler ones. Also, all new Ultimates had some great David Nakayama. He did all the covers for all 12 issues. This is Bombshell again. If she blows up, she was introduced in the in that Miles Morales Spider-Man 3. This is just
all new Ultimates. One variant is a pain in the ass to find.
Oh, you're talking about the one where they're all in front of a brick wall, that one? Yep. Yeah. In fact, I had that one. I didn't have the other one. I bought that when it came out. This cover I just brought up because I thought it's funny. Snake Eyes Dead Game. It looks like Snake Eyes has no arm there. And I said, oh, it's just a flesh wound. That's another Rob Liefeld cover. Rob Liefeld is, we got to just bring that full, right? I mean, you could see his arm is like down here somewhere, but really, master of perspective. And where are those feet? They must be down below the fog. But I know Dead Game had a couple of variants that were heating up, including one with sort of the Wolverine Claw variant for a store variant popping up. So this is a series to look at. Stadium Comics is also doing some Archie variants on this as well. Let's see what else we have going on here. Now I'm going to get into some deeper. I spoke a little. Have you been watching Stargirl at all, Nico?
I've seen 10 minutes of the first episode, and I needed to be able to like sell all my comics first before I watched it. I want to keep them, so I'm ready to watch it.
Yeah, so I brought up All-Star Squadron 25, which I got a nice cheap slab of. That introduced about 8 different legacy characters, including Jade and Obsidian. We've seen the Green Lantern pop in. She pops up in that. She pops up right here. Jade Lantern is Jade Lantern. Jade is the daughter of the Alan Scott Green Lantern. We have seen his lantern pop up again, so there's a good chance we'll see Jade and Obsidian pop up. 2 really interesting characters. All-Star Squadron 25. I've been buying the Wildcats, Yolanda Montez as well, and I think that's why I also had the Shiv character. She pops up in Stars and Stripe 5. She's like a high school bully. She's sort of like rich. The whole town, for the premise, who those don't know, is all of the people in the town are old Injustice, the Injustice Society villains who have settled into this town of Blue Valley or whatever it's called in this small Midwest town. And Courtney Whitmore, who is, of course, named after Jeff John's daughter, moves in with her stepdad, Pat, who is Stripey, who worked back in the day with the old the Justice Society. So I love JSA stuff. I love those Alex Ross covers. I have some stuff around, which I showed over and over again. Watch out for Jakeem the Thunderbolt. He's popping up. His name is already dropped, and we saw the pink pen. So he's going to be a really cool Genie character as well. Keep buying up those cheap spec appearances beyond the Stars and Stripe 1 issue, the 0 issue, and of course that great All-Star Squadron cover. Let's look at some more fun stuff here, Nico. This is where let's start digging. So we saw where some series like Empire have dropped about 6 of their miniseries. A lot of great little spec things in there, including, I think, the Storm Ranger series, which may kill Storm Ranger spec. She was supposed to have an Empire series. X of Swords has 22 titles tying into that.
Wow.
They're going to have this sort of Marvel universe. Yeah, TJ Time. I love Snake Eyes too, but I'm passing on most of that. But I think that that variant's going to blow up a little. And Space Punisher was awesome, especially that Galactus cover. But this X of Swords, I love the Space Knight stuff they're doing in ROM because he has like the Space Knight sword over there. So you're going to get the preview here of all the different swords and the different characters. But more important than like specking on swords, one, I think they bring up profiles for Cypher. I keep bringing up Doug Ramsey again and again. He's such a key character in Jonathan Hickman's run. Please buy those books up. I can't tell you again. It's the
what is it? New Mutants? I don't think
14. Like. Yeah, 13 or 14. I'm sure I have a copy around somewhere, sitting around. It's the one where Kitty's running and she's like, "You can't hang with us ex-babies anymore."
Like a pink background.
Yeah, it's a great cover. I have like 5 of them sitting around. Maybe I'll find one, but he's a key character for what's going to be happening, especially with this. And we're going to start to see the return of this character also, who popped up early in that X-Men run. This guy's one of the summoners, and he can create these creatures and monsters. It's going to tie into the I want to call it Akoa or whatever the opposite of Krakoa is, along with the Apocalypse and those horsemen. I've spoken a lot. Go to my Twitter page. Check out more when we talk about the 4 guys in the background here. And again, you see that summoner in the background on that cover for X of Swords Creation 1. I brought up back on my old blog back in the day that Powers of X4 or Powers of 10-4 and Marvel 1000 are big for those Apocalypse First Horsemen. And remember, they pop up in the cover of that House of X. And if you look on that cover, you can see these horsemen pop up. Go back, read my Twitter page. You can see more on that. And also what's funny is I never spec on costumes, but they keep talking about this Jean Grey costume, and it's driving some people crazy, but there's a specific reason why they've selected this costume. And remember, they're bringing back characters from a certain point. From any time, Charles Xavier can bring these characters back. He has sort of these like different times from when he can sort of repopulate their bodies, when those five characters, they all work together to bring the character back, and Charles then puts the soul back in them, right? Or he puts those memories back in. This is going to tie into that, the reintroduction of Madeline Pryor, the Goblin Queen. We just saw her pop up as well on the last page of one of those X books, and she has some great covers coming up as well. And thank you, New Mutants 13, Andrew, is the one you want for a cipher. But so watch, there's a reason why this cover popped up. There's actually an upcoming variant cover that has her tearing through that cover and Madeline Pryor behind it. So that's going to be really interesting to see what we have popping up there. Here's another character I like. I've spoken about a lot. This is the first introduction, as you see here, of Zora Vuckovich. She pops up in the first issue of the Return of Fantastic Four, but again, just like Ryan Ripley, just like she pops up like Star in this issue, she does not become the character of Victorious here until this issue, right? So, yeah, so Victorious pops up here in this great 1 to 50 Sienkiewicz Fantastic Four 6 cover. So if you want to chase one, feel free. But we heard a lot of news about Latveria. We heard a lot about a female character coming in. They were going back and digging into a character in the past for Victor, but Victoria makes a lot of sense to bring in there. This is where she makes her first costume appearance. I know people are chasing one, but if you're not chasing Ryan Ripley's first appearance of Star, why are you chasing Fantastic Four 1 as the first appearance of Victorious? All right, let's keep going, Nico. Let's really get into a speed round here. This guy. Okay. Wait, let me bring him up. So we saw all the hullabaloo when he was introducing the double page spread, Venom 25. I'm not going to give out too many spoilers, but I have read ahead an issue beyond Venom 25. There will be a status quo change. I brought up that Ultimate Venom. That's going to play into it in a big way. But there's been a lot of speculation. We know this guy is not Null. Donny Cates flat out said he's not Null, which would make sense because Null was pictured in a second area in that double page spread, and we know already you're chasing Web of Venom, Wrath, the character of Wrath. I think he's Wrath, maybe Wraith. Probably Wraith, because that would be the ghost. But I saw something where somebody had like an anagram put up, or they had like a code, and like, can you break this code? And somebody started to break and say, and said that this guy is going to be Eddie possessed by Null. And we know that the Maker has created these dimensional portals, and in these other dimension, there's a good chance that this could be Eddie Brock possessed by Null in a different dimension or a different place. We don't know which Eddie necessarily. He's got that long hair that we've seen him represented with elsewhere. It would be quite an interesting way to see what could happen to Eddie in an alternate reality if he wasn't who he was and fighting up against his character. I think we could really see some interesting sort of revelations come back. We don't get a full revelation in Venom 26, but we do get a little more history. And again, I don't like to give away too many spoilers. I mean, it is speculation stuff, but I like you to have a little fun. There's where, so it's sort of someone put, this is a cipher. The answer's there. Good luck for sending. And someone said he is Eddie blank blank by Null. And then I said, oh, maybe Eddie possessed by Null, right? That makes sense. This is the from that Ultimate book. This is where we sort of see that Venom in a jar. Are we on that? Yeah, good. Okay. Sometimes it's just us on there.
You're doing great.
Yeah, but we don't see Venom pop up actually until later. I think it's 2 issues later is where we see the Venom where Eddie is possessed by Venom. So that's one to chase after as well. This is some stuff from the I don't know if you read the Empire book. The first one was really nice, and there was a big delay. Then they came out with Empire Avengers. This is actually Sequoia, who's back from that Avengers Celestial Quest #3 that I have down there. I've spoken about that. I'm not going to go more into that as well, but basically that's going to be about the Kree and the Skrulls against this Katati, the plant people, which we'll see how that works out. And that's going to bring those Golden Girl X-Men Gardner characters back into the fold as well in their Empire X-Men series. We see the Swordsman introduced, but he looks a little different. Swordsman, of course, classic Avengers character, tie him back in the data. He was a villain who was redeemed. He died, but he's been brought back, and we're seeing these bless you. We're seeing these plant zombie characters brought back in X-Men. So that seems to be Katadia possessing characters who have been deceased and sort of. So I don't necessarily think the Avengers are siding on the sides of the Angels. The Kree and the Skrull might actually be on the right on this one. And there's Sequoia again, looking very different than we saw previously. And Thor actually hung out with Sequoia back in the day, believe it or not. Also, this brings up Teddy Altman, the character of Hulkling. I brought up that Avengers 3 in the past, 1 to 25, where we find out that he's the one to reunite everybody. And we see sort of this group that reunites them. So check those out as well. Carol Danvers, we know, is going to become this sort of like the new Accuser, Carol the Accuser, coming up as well. She has a really cool green costume with the hammer on it. And then we do see at the end of that series a coffin with Carol Danvers' name and that hammer. I don't think she's dying, so just spoiler alert on that one. So now let's get into it. So here's where I'm gonna get a little angry. All right, so let's talk about this. There are a couple podcasts where really push this theory, and there are a couple of people who I am very I'm very respectful of their opinions, who were pushing out the Silver Surfer Black, the cover appearance, and exactly what of Black Winter, and saying that the Silver Surfer Black, he's mentioned here, the Black Winter, where I'm like right in the middle over here. Black Winter is brought up, and they're like, oh, and this is the first appearance of the Black Winter, and look on the cover with the 3 eyes. Donny Cates came flat out and said it. I was engaging in some, as you do, very polite interactions online with people and saying, you're telling me you know better than the writer. And some people are even saying, well, no, that's because somebody figured it out. And now Donny Cates is upset about it. And, no, Tradd Moore didn't go to Donny Cates and say, I'm going to draw Black Winter. People are just looking to chase Black Winter anywhere. Now I want to do I'm going to do a little deep dive here, Nico, because this is a character I've been following for a while. So if you look back here, I won't say who I was writing back and forth with, but November 25th.
Hold on, we don't have your screen.
Oh, yeah, here we go. So November 25th, and I'm going to go full here. I said, so after reading the description, I'm betting Thor 169 is about to get retconned. The Creeping Plague will become whatever the Black Winter is. And so this was back in November. I put this out. Because I'd read a little bit about Donny Cates saying, oh, I'm surprised no one's ever gone deeper on this Jack Kirby thing he did. And immediately I started thinking, well, how does Galactus tie in? How does it? So I said, okay, let me research this. And this is someone who's, does a lot of let's just say the person I was writing with does a lot with comic speculation. So then I started reading back through. And so Thor.
Remember when we talked about this stuff already, Gary?
I didn't we talk about this already? Right. Yeah, so I'm going to go a little deeper here, Nico. So Thor 168, right? So by the way, this guy right here, this Watcher, this is not the Watcher Yuatsu. This is Watcher ECCE. Maybe it's pronounced Eche, S-A. He's the one who first comes across the ship. So this was in 168. Thor is getting sort of the origin of Galactus, where the ship has crashed. 169, of course, is the whole origin of Galactus. I go a little deeper here where, okay, Galactus tells a story to Thor. This is where they are first interacting. We know that the Ta is doomed. There's a plague coming. There's no cure for this creeping plague. The scientists has come back. There's no way we can get away from it. It's killed off these generations. Our race must die in a manner befitting of tea. And the scientists, it's helpless. No one can escape the living plague. They're looking at this visit screen. People are being struck down as this creeping plague is coming. It's coming to Ta. So now they have a ship where they actually go in a ship. Some of them take off. It's destroying everything. Everyone's dying from this plague. This is very similar, right? Like, can you tell? Like, this is back in Fantastic Four when they were irradiated with the gamma rays back in the day. And we see here, he says, the others have met their fates, but I feel new life, a strange new force throbbing, bursting within me. And so this is that sentience of the galaxy, right? The sentience who has bonded with Galactus, who's not Galactus at that point. They've bonded together. They become this Galactus character, and then the world is sort of recreated, and he's the Hunger, the Devourer. And the person who watches this thing happening the whole time, and I think is really interesting, is this Watcher character of Eche. And I keep going back to him, and I'm going to go back to him in a little bit. So this is a creation. Again, this is where you see the Crimson Plague has become that, and then that Watcher says he departs. And for ages yet uncounted, I may live to regret my decision. I think he's a really interesting character to keep an eye out on, right? And here's that Donnie Cates tweet. Okay, after the 100th tweet I've received about this, no, this is not a first appearance of anything. This is a master at work. Nowhere in my script for the page did I mention anything related to my Thor plans to trad. End of story. But people know better than the writer. No, you don't. Shut up, move on, go on, find your next spec, right? So now I started to look back at some of these books, and these were books that I was picking up for a while. So there have been so many stories of Galactus and of the void and the abyss and the blackness. I just want to show you an example. So this was the death of Galactus the Devourer, right? Written by Simonson, art by Buscema, and inked by Sienkiewicz. And in this series, essentially what's important here is I'm going right to the end of the last page. Galactus is dying. Silver Surfer has gone against him. Galactus is sort of his best he's like, you're always my best friend. But now know this, horror that I've become is just the beginning. There's much more, a greater horror and a greater purpose. And now at the end, the Watcher's saying the ending was inevitable, but a universe without Galactus, I fear, will all soon be very sorry. And sort of a Bastion, devourer of darkness, corrupted by what he consumed. So let me just tell you, this is not a new concept of these characters. And I see, a lot of going on about like, what could Black Winter be? Who could it be? So I went back to also the last Galactus story. Do you know this from the Epic Illustrated, Nico? It was actually famous for never being completed.
Yeah, we talked about it on the Flipside podcast.
Oh, I didn't know. Great.
Yeah, I 100% concur with everything you've said and wish people would have listened to us the first time. Please continue.
Yeah, I wish. And again, see, this is why I don't like. So I should listen more. So we see, and I love the Frankie Ray Nova in here, but just some of the language. Why is it so dark, Master? It should be. There's a black nebula completely surrounding the core, a shell of gas and dust. And again, these are stories that are like, I guess, Elseworld or what could have been. It was Epic Illustrated. But as you read this, just some of the language that they use in here, the blackness is total. I have senses beyond those mortal minds. They bring up the void. They bring up a mighty, look at this. Galactus shall behold the enigma that crouches within this mighty cloud. Wow. Right? So then over here they say, this guy in the box, darkness, and where in the bright tunnel of any place might it be called dark? The legends do not name the world, Devourer, only that it is a place of unending blackness with a hunger to match your own. Wow, fascinating. So Nova's going to, at the end, you know how this book ended? Do you know what's the last panel in this book, Nico? Because remember, they never finished it. We only got one reveal. Do you remember what the last panel was?
I do not.
Okay, so here's the last panel in this book. So it's been so long, you no longer recall the face of the one who created you. Oh, so there's that Watcher again. S.A. the Watcher. Really interesting stuff that this Watcher was sort of left to the annals of history, far behind. Maybe he might have a bigger part to play down the line. And again, these were Elseworld stories that never got finished. John Burns sort of gave his sort of idea of what could have happened, but again, I want you to keep that in mind because I'm going to wrap up later when I go back to this again because I have another theory, but this sort of like, this is a little teaser, a little appetizer for what's to come on Black Winter. But please, enough of chasing Surfer Black. Don't chase those like those guys who are hanging out in front of the of Null's tomb. Though I will say, I do have to say, the podcaster on there was a great call on something, which I'm going to get into a little further in a few minutes. But let's keep going here. So now, another thing I want to go back to. This is back from January 2019. One more possible key book in the Incredible Hulk run, leading to the Immortal Hulk, is 1997's -1 flashback issue, Dark Revelations about Brian Banner's demise, which doom him to hell come to light. There was a variant issue as well, with both covers featuring his father. There was also a signed Wizard edition. So again, I brought this back up in January of 2019. Now, what are they doing? They're reprinting the Hulk first, the Hulk issue with the first appearance of Dad, and they're putting that Hulk -1 in that issue as well. Why that's so important is because, so I said, much ado has been made about the first full appearance of the One Below All in this week's Immortal Hulk 12. That's making that book heat up. I have written about it in the past about some of the key books. In fact, I wrote about Hulk -1 flashback, and lo and behold, Brian Banner references the moment in this issue. I put the screenshot in, and basically, the last page is a doozy and gets me wondering if the Devil Hulk's going to pop up. The Green Door pops up across these issues, and what you have here is, in that Hulk -1 flashback, where you see Bruce and his father at the mother's gravesite. It's the second time that Bruce has actually sent his father to hell, but it might be the true actual opening of the green door and the subsequent letting in of the one below all. It's even referenced in Immortal Hulk 12 when they say, the monster killed me again, sent me to a farther hell, a lower deep, where the thing from my dream was waiting for me, here below everything. The exact image is referenced in Incredible Hulk 620, Hulk -1 flashback, and then it's referenced again in Immortal Hulk 12. Game over. So that was something I brought up back in January, February of 2019, that these books are going to come into play. Al Ewing is playing the long game. So these are books that you need to be looking at, need to be picking up. That Incredible Hulk 620 picked up. I'd go back and look at those Devil Hulk issues again. I think he's going to end it in issue 50. But you heard now there's going to be a one-shot. And this is why I'm not buying so big into this next character. But there's going to be a one-shot of a new Immortal character, right? The Immortal She-Hulk, right? So let's dig deeper into that one. So speculation to me is reading, thinking back, going ahead, finding out how everything connects, right? It doesn't take a Rhodes Scholar to figure out, after you read the last Immortal Hulk book with the leader, which was a great, had so much buried in that book. But basically the leader, at the end, the leader has teamed up with Brian Banner, right? And said, I'm going to tell you now finally how to get it done. And there's a panel in there where they actually reference the gray She-Hulk, and they bring up what happened. Thanos killed her, it turns out. They thought she was just in a coma. It was retconned back. That Civil War II, right? Civil War II was ending up being a big series, considering it was a pretty lousy read. But I brought up, and I think, and I want to say, I think probably maybe Comic Jim brought this up, maybe going back to that, or
I think he was the first person I heard talking about the Immortal She-Hulk, but I could be wrong.
Yeah. So I went back and I started to read some issues up, and I'm like, interesting premise there, and I like how they bring it up. So it tells me they're going to bring that up again, but were there points where maybe earlier where She-Hulk sort of, could have died? And I actually brought it up to my good buddy Nick from Key Collector. And Nick said, no, I don't see it. I think this is happening. But I want you to look at the panels here and you tell me. All right. So I'm going to go full screen a minute. And let's read this. Let's read through this a minute. And actually, before I do it, let me show you. Do I have the actual book here? Let's see. I probably do. Yeah. So I want to talk about this book. Okay, I want to talk about, this was Jeff Johns, Olivia Coipel. Believe it or not, a lot of people didn't know Jeff Johns did a great Avengers run back in the day. This is some of Coipel's first work. This is the fourth part of the Red Zone that he wrote. And so this is Avengers 68. I think I grabbed 5 copies for a total of $13, right? No, sorry, let me just turn my alerts off here. So now let's dig a little deeper into that book. Okay, so before that issue came out, they're in this area where there's this red dust, this red cloud. They all have these costumes on. They can't be exposed. The Avengers at that time was Scarlet Witch, She-Hulk, AIM had put this together, and also Jack of Hearts. And Jack of Hearts is an interesting character I want to talk about a little as well. But basically, She-Hulk, her suit gets shredded up, right? So you can see she's She-Hulk right now, right? Her suit gets shredded up. She gets exposed, and now she turns back to Jennifer. Okay, so this is how that issue before ended. 482. Looks like she's exposed, goes back to turning to Jen. Trouble. Now, next issue, Avengers 468 or 483, a legacy numbering. You see Ant-Man, Vision, help, it's She-Hulk. He's listening for a pulse, right? Remember, she was Jen. Now, all of a sudden, he goes, got a pulse, got a ba-bump, ba-bump, ba-bump. And now you see, all of a sudden, her eye turns. She's like, rrr. And next panel, you see this, right? So you see her with the red eyes. Looks like she had no pulse, but oh, I found the pulse there. Now we have this character. She was normal She-Hulk before. She-Hulk standing up, red eyes. She's brutal. She's in full sort of savage She-Hulk form, throwing people around, saying, whatever. Jennifer, what did Jack do? Did he hurt you? She's not even responding to him. And And we hear a little bit about that. She's been feeling sick, and that happens when Jack is in close proximity. Now, if you know Jack of Hearts, great old character. I believe he's still dead, but he's been brought back to life again and then dead. They're saying, what if he absorbs gamma radiation? Oh, interesting, right? After the She-Hulk disappeared, there was a whole hunt for She-Hulk. They went from this great Olivia Coipel art to this horrible Scott Collins art. But again, they find her again, and they talk about how Jack it says, how do you think Jack returned me to? And then he says, he can see radiation like we see colors. She never finishes that sort of phrase again. We never see what happens over there. And then I even looked back to the Wikipedia, and right in the middle here, it says, Jack of Hearts attempts to fly She-Hulk back to the surface. She goes a little crazy, tries to stop him, then reverts to human form. It looks like she dies from the virus. Now, Nico, I don't know, to me.
Well, I mean, here's kind of the problem.
Let's talk
right?
about.
So when you don't have any sort of like a cohesive narrative from a single author, where the story doesn't specifically come out of a series, like this is the event which spawns this mini series, but instead they're doing because I think these two situations are very analogous, right? With the Black Winter and the Immortal She-Hulk. Instead, they're trying to take these little pieces out of comic history. It makes it very difficult to point your finger at one specific book and say, well, this one's the one, this is where that event happens, it's the it book. And instead, it unfortunately results in people who have the loudest mouths, the biggest forums, the most followers getting to sort of like anoint a particular issue that in the grander scheme of things, who really cares?
Right, because it's going to be a one shot of a character that it may be just for one issue.
Yeah, so like, I mean, I obviously don't care about the Immortal She-Hulk. If the series, because it's written by Al Ewing, spawns out of this one shot and it takes off, that's cool. But, I'm a trade paperback reader on Immortal Hulk. You're not seeing me run out and buy a $2,000 9/8 of the 1 in 50 number 2, only to have it crushingly drop to $500 a few months later. I'm just not that kind of buyer. So, like when it comes to the Thor stuff, what do I like? The 168, the 169, the Epics Illustrated.
Always.
When it comes to the when did She-Hulk die? Probably a lot more times than you, I, or Jim have figured out over the course of history. When was her first death or what?
It's so, but
like, when does the heartbeat stop? And it kind of demonstrates the ridiculousness of it all. And with the Thor stuff, it's far more interesting because there's like this like Kirby, John Byrne, sort of like goodness, and Cates is taking these like little pieces out of, and if
Starlin, right?
Oh, doesn't get any better, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if Ewing decides to do something similar where he's going to harken back to those breadcrumbs that have been left by his forefathers in the Marvel lore, that's super cool too. But yeah, I'm a hard pass on Civil War 2-4, except for I might be the only guy in the world that likes that 1 in 10 variant. I remember the first time I saw it with the goofy art with dressed up like a fanboy. Yeah. I was like, oh, that's a great cover. And then my internet, like always, is failing on the flip side, so they all badmouth it. But I'm like, but I like that cover.
But that's
for the cover, not for the freaking book.
Oh yeah.
Right?
And to me, that's the point, Nico, that we have to stop. Authors can keep retconning, but guess what? Then a writer's going to come down and retcon the retcon right down the line. But to me, I'm like, okay, yes, it's explicitly mentioned in that book, so I could see why people would run to that Civil War II book. But be aware that these things have happened before, and that nothing is new again in comics. It's all cyclical. No one's coming up with a story that's so blown away. Like I said, the great thing about Mortal Hulk is, the gamma radiation, the Green Door. That's a true, and again, but he did go back. He went back to Greg Pak's run on Hulk. He went back to earlier runs. He went back to Peter David's run. So he went back to a lot of earlier things going on in that book that popped up later. So and again, I mean, look at this. I saw people trying to tell me that this, Nico, ready?
Yeah, and I apologize. I meant with respect to the Immortal She-Hulk.
Oh yeah, no, that. And I
think he absolutely did that with the Immortal Hulk, which is, I think, why people love it so much.
Like this, like, oh, looks like She-Hulk is dead here, right?
Yeah,
killed by Red She-Hulk. But I think what happens here is that ends up being an LMD, even though it has green blood coming out. It's a really, that's a life model decoy. But I've seen people saying, oh, look, she died here also. So like you brought up, they're comic characters. They die, but they all come back, except for Uncle Ben. Oh, did he come back? I don't know. Maybe he came back. But again, if I was chasing anything with the Hulk stuff, chase those Immortal Hulk 12s. That book, I bought so many copies of that. I've sold almost my entire Immortal Hulk run. I know Del Fry's coming back again. That issue 2, that great 1-25, the Zafino cover. Those are books to chase after. Again, I'll buy a couple of these in case they say, oh, you know what? Remember, she was first here and something happened to her there. And whether or not you think she died, you didn't think she died in the Civil War II book. But again, it's one issue where after that, status quo is probably going to go back to where it was before. But please, whatever it is, I don't like what Jason Aaron's doing with She-Hulk. I don't like the way the character's being written, where she's way back to like being a character that she used to be this great lawyer character, and when she was Jen and had the same intellect that's a great character. I don't like the savage or the dumbed down She-Hulk where she's just sleeping with Thor all the time. I know that's upsetting a lot. Like, I'm not going to get so upset that I'm going to send death threats like some people, but I don't love what they've done with that character per se. All right, Nico, what are we going on? 145? Let's keep going a little more. Let's see what else. Let's see. I don't even know what's behind the curtain here. Are we? Do I have the screen up? Let's go back to this screen. Let's see what we have up here. Oh, okay.
Lord of Mercy. What the hell is this book?
Lord of Mercy. There you go.
Bless America. I liked it when I saw it, and then I couldn't figure out. Let me phrase that.
Yeah,
I didn't pay enough attention to write it down and go buy them before they went crazy. That's a great cover.
Oh my God. Let's go back to that again, because I think we can all appreciate that again. And you know what? Like I said, if you perv out on comics, I mean, there's a much better way to do that. It's called the internet. But there are some just beautiful, sexy comic covers, and they should be appreciated. And there should be I have covers that I put aside, and I'm like, these are awesome covers that I won't sell. Beautiful cover. Will Jack. It was a store variant. It's a Virgin variant. Selling for $100 a couple weeks ago, right? So I started to look, and I like that Sacred Six series. I think that Sacred Six series is really interesting.
Is that what this is?
Yes, it's the Dynamite series, which has Vampirella, who now, have you seen Vampirella lately? She doesn't look like the Vampirella. Well, the new Vampirella per se. I'm going to show you. Wait.
Ooh, Lordy.
So let's go a little further. So this is the 1-50 Mark Teixeira retro Sacred Six variant. This is a tough book to find. Sacred Six, I don't know if it came out or if it's coming out. This is the new Vampirella. She does not look like the old Vampirella anymore. She's now Priest is writing her. She's an African-American character. I haven't been reading, to be honest, but I read a little backstory on her. There's another shot. I think this is the next Will Jack cover for 2, maybe. Beautiful cover. There's a Perillo cover for issue 3. I'm liking this new Vampirella. Different look to her. These covers, it's Dynamite.
It's still my heart.
Yeah, I could tell you Dynamite. Some of those, I know people are always like, oh, the print runs could be whatever. Some of these books are tough to find. And if you look back at some of these beautiful Dynamite books, like Perillo, I think people are getting a little painterly art out. I think they're out. I think that's why Peach Momoko has blown up so much, because people are a little tired of all these like scan and this and, but when you see a gorgeous cover like this, come on, I'm behind it. So I wanted to just talk a little bit about that. I thought that was a book worth looking at. So the characters in here, Nico, are Vampirella, Draculina, Pantha, Nyx, Chastity, and Lilith. So these are 6 female characters they put together in sort of this team supreme for Dynamite. Nobody really reads Dynamite, but they put out more books than 60 books a month they're putting out. A week. They have 60 books coming out next week. And 12 of them, of course, are variants for Army of Darkness versus Vampirella or whatever, but does have a little Rihanna look to her, right? A little bit, Paul. All right, let's keep going. Let's see what's next, Nico, because I've just been pulling stuff out.
She was half my umbrella.
Bolt Comics just signed a big deal with Heavy Metal. Heavy Metal is a really interesting publisher. Their stuff doesn't really tend to spark up or jump out. Now they're starting to go really into single issue trade. They're also, this is the Heavy Metal variant for the Heathen 1. They did it for, I think, 6 of their first issues. And there's a guy who is now involved with Heavy Metal who, the reason why I feel more confidence in them, and I'll show you in a minute. So they're talking about, they did an interview. So Tarna, Chase Tarna books. Tarna is going to be Heavy Metal's linchpin character, with movies, with shows. There's a whole universe developing. They talk about also Cold Dead War from George Romero. They have a series called Vassiter and Crunch, which is coming out. They basically said if Conan had a younger brother and he was a robot. So it's like barbarian robot characters. So, okay, I'm into an extent. So Heavy Metal has this whole new thing going on. They have actually I never watched, I have kids, but they watched Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. I guess one of the stars is now a writer. He's a twin. He's writing this thing called Sun Eater. The variant looked pretty cool, part of their own comic universe. But and then Ron Mars has something coming out called World Traveler. So it's going to be this Heavy Metal universe. And why I'm interested in that, and here's something else, Cursed from Frank Miller. That's a book from Heavy Metal. That's a movie coming out on Netflix July 17th. So you can look for Cursed by Frank Miller. That may get some heat. That's from Heavy Metal. But Joseph Illich is sort of a comic genius. And he's been brought in on both sides to sort of say, how am I going to take the media side, the comic side, put it together? He is on all angles. Everywhere you look at it, he is like the mensch of comic publishing. And he is now going to be in charge of a lot of the creative development with Heavy Metal. They're going to be pushing these books out, single trades, the time with Vault. Start to look at some of these Heavy Metal characters. Start to look at some of the characters I brought up previously from the AD series, the British series where you had Rogue Trooper and you had Judge Dredd and all the judges popping up. Those are those sort of books that I'm starting to look at, these UK books, because they were larger format. They're hard to keep in tough condition. You and I, we know we love to look in magazine edition. So just a little bit to look on for Heavy Metal. The other imprint I brought up earlier, DC's Milestone Revival, back on track and needed more than ever, says co-founder. So maybe now Milestone, we need Milestone more than ever. I don't have to sell you on Static and any of those books over there. Look for those Heroes book again. Maybe Milestone is finally going to be the hero we need in this environment to come back and more than ever. Paper Girls. What do you think about this series, Nico? You know Paper Girls?
I've not read it. I got in after everybody went crazy about it.
It was heavy printed, right? Like everyone was playing this up.
I don't even think I may have if I meant to, but I don't know that I did. I was gonna try to go back and buy the last issue out of Dollar Bins.
Yeah. So
but it's not a first issue kind of book for me, even though that's the one that's popped. We'll see how it goes. How many issues did it go? Do you remember?
I don't even know. This is one I think I have like 3 to 5 of the first issue sitting around, and I'm like, all right, I'll wait till I see a trailer, see if it looks decent. You know. You know
what was good? Did you watch what the hell is it called? Warrior Nun Ariella?
Oh, it's so funny you brought that up. I was talking to somebody online the other day, and I'm like, it gave me everything that I was hoping The Witcher would give me. It gave me all those feels, and they did a really good job with that. Like,
absolutely.
I was like, Warrior Nun. Wait a minute, I have some of those issues sitting in backbins. And didn't she tie in eventually with Evangeline, another character that's popping soon? And if they do that just like that, that's a kind of interesting universe to be watching over there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So it was likable. It was decent.
Yeah.
It was good. I was happy. I was pleasantly surprised for a guy who hated V-Wars, hated October Faction. The list goes on. This one was a win.
Yeah, there's been some rough stuff coming out. Like Netflix, there's some stuff that's come and gone quickly. Oh, so look, I mean, have we hit the point now where Peach Momoko is now finally over? Like, is this a good cover? Like, is this? I can't even talk about Peach Momoko. Okay, so now let's talk about a couple things popping up soon. Just keep an eye out for. So Spider-Man's getting ready to move up to a big anniversary issue. Great covers coming up. This Amazing Spider-Man, we've seen I'm so sick of this guy. He's been teased forever. We don't know who he is. Some people think that he's going to end up being like Ned Leeds or someone else. But what's
it was Norman Osborn.
Another Osborn.
I
Harry.
thought it said right there on the cover, Sins of Norman Osborn.
Oh, it does say that, but I think that's because this character actually confronted Norman Osborn. Yeah, he's actually been in. But what's interesting is the last paragraph here. Spidey calls his amazing friends Miles Morales, Spider-Man, Spider-Woman, Ghost Spider, Spider-Girl, and Madam Web in to help. The Order of the Web is born. So so they're putting all these spider characters. That sounds like a series to me, right? The Order of the Web. And
sounds like that new TV show or that new movie that was supposed to be about Madam Web.
Oh yeah. Oh well, that's now. And which Madam Web is it, by the way? Probably the Julia Carpenter.
Definitely the Julia Carpenter. Yeah. If they're gonna have the blonde chick, what's her name?
Not
Uma Thurman, but
yeah. I know who you're talking about. And I can't. It'll pop to us.
Yeah, thanks.
So look out for that. Look out for this new Order of the Web. But look at some of the characters. And Silk, I know, has been blowing up. A lot of those characters. Ultraman, we know we saw some great Alex Ross covers. I've spoken already about. You should be buying those Ultraman books from back in the day. These are just the Empire books that were canceled. Some covers that popped out. Ben Oliver continuing to kill it. Vengeance of Vampirella 8. Love that cover. Savage Avengers. If you haven't been following this, Lionel Yu, a lot of Cthulhu stuff, a lot of Kulan Gath stuff. Those are characters. They're really developing. I told you again, those characters have been big. Conan has been, I think, a successful transplant over. We're going to talk about another transplant over right now, Nico. Let's talk a little bit about this.
Oh, boy.
All right. So we saw the news, right? This news was great. Predator, Aliens. I don't think I have I was not a big collector of those books. I basically had I have this Aliens one. I don't even know which one this is. I don't know if this is I had the Aliens one. I had the Aliens Genocide one, all from Dark Horse. Aliens Earth War one.
Yeah, there's who did the cover on that? That last one you just showed, Geiger.
That was Bolton, John Bolton on this cover.
Okay, there's some great Geiger covers too.
Yeah, well, this is Arthur Sudium, who is supposed to be, by all accounts, a real a-hole. So he did that cover here. He did a lot of those great covers. That was the Aliens one cover. And you know what's funny? There was no Marvel crossover with Predator or Aliens that I've been able to find. A lot of DC crossovers, and I love this. This is just a great cover because there's again Arthur Sudium, and look that back Predator on that cover. That's a great. And then people are chasing. Of course, it was in the Dark Horse Presents books, but I like just the regular Aliens Predator covers as well. 1 and 2. So there's a lot of books to chase from Dark Horse, but I'm wondering, how much value are we putting in these books versus when they have their Marvel debut? And my question is, how soon are they going to do what they did with? How long did Conan have? How long was the imprint back with Conan before they brought him into the Marvel universe? Right? Are they going to right away? Are they going to have them in their own little thing? Because what tells me no is if we look back, it's Predator holding the Iron Man. Whatever that his helmet, right? We also have
Marvel's inability to tell good stories. I hate to sound like the grumpy old man, but are you fucking kidding me? This is going to be trash, hot trash. I hope they prove me wrong. I hope it's exceptional. But I have such low expectations for Marvel's ability to do this in the kind of R-rated way, a PG Aliens. No.
Yeah,
just that I don't.
Predator, right? Like Kraven versus Predator. I mean, that kind of thing. That's a cool premise, but how far are you going to go with that in terms of Marvel? But I will tell you that creators are rushing to get on board with this already. Like I said, these are properties that, oh my God, if they ever bring it over here. And then one particular guy like EM, so Alien Predator heading over to Marvel. We have a look at the artwork. EM Gist, who I've spoken about in the past, does a lot of great illustrated covers, has been doing Conan covers. He's like, please put me to let me go to town on this book over here and look. Look, if this guy's doing art on that type of book, I mean, look at that. Like that's a killer cover for me. Dark. True Predator, True Aliens, how you want it to look. So we have time for that. We're not going to see those books for, I don't think, too soon down the line.
And we'll see how this shakes out. I hope it's like everything else. I'll keep my expectations on the cement floor and let them just exceed everything I'd ever hoped for.
Keep them low, and I put this cover up just because I was looking through some solicits. I feel to me this is like dad bod, yeah, but it also looks like dad bod Batman and a little bit, right? But this is Lee Weeks. Like, tell me about a guy who's just like one of the masters of the game, right? Looking at, and these are some covers now I just pulled out that I really like. So that Lee Weeks cover coming out for I believe that's a Superman title, Deadly Class. I love this cover just because look, it's like two girls sleep over and then the bloody hand on the bottom. Great variant. Like these are the kind of covers, like later covers on books that print runs have dropped significantly from Image. Always going to dig. Love covers like that. So here's a fun one. Is
that the Turkish?
Yes, the Yardar Sindre cover. So I was in touch with the people in Turkey. They're going to be putting these up on eBay. So there are a couple of these covers. This is an homage cover. Yes, of Dev Hulk Wolverine. So these are going to be going up next week.
Does it scare you that I know that?
Yeah, I think that's great that you know that. I didn't think you would know that at all, Nico.
Every once in a while, I try to impress.
So these are interesting. Keep an eye out on these. You know, some of the foreign stuff. I know you guys at the Flipside talk about this a lot, right? Like foreign type of.
I got like 3 books just because they're impossible to find.
And that Mara Ziki on the bottom. So you can look this up if you're interested in this. Some of the other stuff that has the announcements. Are you a Fallout guy, Nico?
No, but do you know who is?
Who?
Everyone under the age of 25 in the United States of America and across the globe.
Yeah, so again, that's why I didn't know much about it. So, you know, as soon as I heard this news, what did I do? I went back and said, Fallout, that seems like a great premise for a series, for a comic. And all these people, all they kept saying was, how come there's no comics? How come there's no comics? But there was.
Motherfucker. God damn it. This was my pick on the flip side on Monday. Good job.
Sorry.
Now I got to hurry up and buy this copy off of eBay.
I already bought 2 copies for, I bought one for $35 and I got one for $40. So.
Oh, you're killing me.
So while there's no comic per se for the Fallout property, be on the lookout for the hardcover at Dorcron. All Roads graphic novel was released with a collector's edition of the game Fallout New Vegas. And the 2010 book had a great Jeff Darrow cover to boot on there. So you can see this one. It's like a book that is very tough to find because there's in collector's editions of this. And, you know, like
and the other thing that's problematic is you got to make sure that the copy you buy is in English because a lot of them are like in Japanese, German. There's
correct.
like a.
That's right. And if you look for those Japanese copies, they're going to be tough to find. And I actually started to hedge and I got greedy and someone else grabbed a copy out from under me on eBay as well. But yeah, now might be the time to grab those, Nico, because
here's the other thing that's key since we're talking about it. Son of a bitch.
Sorry.
Now I got to come up with another good spec. No, but it makes me happy that we think about the same stuff, right?
Nico,
I love it.
It's a much bigger audience. So you can,
but it makes me happy that you and I legitimately just come up with the same, like, well, nobody knows about this book. Yeah. Bam. We do. The other thing that's important to think about is if you want to go deep on that, right? It's not the graphic novel that you buy. Go balls deep. Get the sealed game.
Oh,
I don't know enough about the game market to figure out which one you buy, right? But they limited them. So there's an Xbox, a PlayStation, and a computer game at 5,000 copies a piece. Legitimately, there's 15,000 copies of this graphic novel in English. And then, you know, obviously more in other languages, more in English if you count other English-speaking countries. I don't know how that distribution exactly went. I assume, like, Great Britain got 5,000 copies for each one. But I don't think that, like, I don't know, Australia did.
And it's not for me to go down that. So you and I were thinking the same thing. So it's like I'm like the game, and then I saw, oh, wait a minute, there's a Kickstarter for cards with these like sketch cards, and then they have out, and they have boxes available of this, and I'm like, I don't want to get so balls deep into a property where I don't know enough about it. Like, and so I'm like, okay, I'll look for the comic because I know comics, and but there are sketch cards.
But the sealed game that's where the graphic novel came.
But I imagine that's so tough to find because there's a collect. Yeah, because like you said, those numbers.
Oh, no, I found them.
Yeah, I got to send me the link offline, please. All right, let's keep going. Is anyone watching us still? Okay, we have 25. All right, let's keep going a little further. Let's see what else I have in the queue here. We're only about halfway through my slides, Nico.
Oh boy, here we go.
Oh, Old Guard review. Gina Prince Bythewood delivers Netflix best 2020 action movie, and don't forget we had Extraction this year too.
Bam.
So I'm 1,000% in on Old Guard. I have I bought a $60 9.8 slab about a week ago of just a regular copy, but I'm like, there are so many great little variants of that book. I'm excited. The trailer was killer. The reviews are up to here. It has Charlize Theron, who come on, like I said,
that's her.
Yeah.
That's
what you wanted for Uma Thurman. That's why you got it. There we go. Don't we always come full circle again, Nico? Yeah. Or at least our next episode we would have remembered. All right, let's keep going because that's one to look for. Okay. So this character, the Profiteer. Again, I would never chase one of these elders of the universe. They've been putting a lot of information on her. She was supposed to come out in a Fantastic Four book. Then she's going to come out in the Fantastic Four Empire book. Unseen, who, if you don't remember who the Unseen is, that's the Watcher character, the Nick Fury Watcher character. He's coming back as well into play. There's a Profiteer. I mean, really, this is a character we're specking on. But what I found more interesting in this was these two. So in the Fantastic Four Empire book, you see these two kids up on top. I'm seeing a lot with Valeria and also Franklin Richards. We know back in the day they had that the Fantastic Force, and these two characters, look at them. They're up on the cover, way up here on the Empire Fantastic Four Empire Fallout issue as well. Those two characters popped up in Empire Fantastic Four Zero. We may see this Kree and Skrull character end up being major characters down the line. Again, little things to look at. People are chasing that Meet the Skrulls. I know I see Mel V over here. Yeah, Mel V, I'll put that up just for you, Mel V, because, yeah, it's true. She's been out there. But I will also say that he was a huge proponent of the Nico Henrichan variant of Meet the Skrulls 1. Those characters are major players in there. So I don't know how much is going to pull out of Empire. This is their big event with Al Ewing. I don't see a lot of excitement over it because it's just been delayed, and maybe people aren't excited about Kree Skrulls fighting plant people, but something to look for as well. What do you think about this cover, Nico? Yay or nay?
Yeah, I'm probably gonna pass.
Yeah, especially at $75 to $90 for. I mean, it's a 1 to 50 for an issue 2, and I think the major thing that in there, it's going to introduce her nemesis, who is the daughter of the agent of the. What was she turned by Hydra? Was that who turned her? Hydra, right? Or Hydra or AIM or. So whoever turned her and she killed in that same issue, she blew him up. The daughter of that character is now going to be the arch villain for her. She's introduced in this issue. I read issue 1. It was fine. I like Carla Pacheco, I think is, or Carla Pacheco. We do see where she gets her costume. We see a shadowy figure saying you'll be well rewarded for giving her that, because now whoever that is can actually tap into her heart rate and body temp. So we do see this shadowy figure at the end of 1. Obviously, that's not a first appearance. But she seems to be, this is probably going to be that character who's the daughter of her, the one that she killed and who actually turned her into Spider-Woman is a really messed up character too. If you remember back in the day, the guy who sort of brainwashed her, convinced her she was actually a spider that turned into a woman, actually, at that point. If you know her origin, it's really freaky. They revamped it a little in the Spider-Woman origin series, 1 through 5. So go read that over if you can't find, of course, her early issue. Another cover I love. I want someone out there in the column book. I mean the column book. The comments. Tell me if this cover ever came out, because I cannot find it. Mike McCone, Miss Fury 1. I love this cover. Something about this cover speaks to me. Maybe it's my penchant for leatherware. I don't know, but
all right.
Again, a character. I dig it. I think it's I know you're not appreciating it as much as a Dynamite book again, but I think it's a really cool character, all black cover. I want to add it into my thing, and I've been reaching out, and I can't find anyone. It was solicited, but no one was able to find a copy, and I can't find a copy anywhere of this. All right. I don't want to go big on me. I want to go big back on this. Let's keep going here.
As you can see, I'm trying to buy one of those Ultimate Fall or one of those Fallout graphic novels, and every damn copy I had my eye on is already sold.
Yeah, you knew you had about a 3-hour window on that, and then probably 12 hours to find copies.
Yeah, you bought them.
I only got 2 of them, so don't worry about that. So here's one that's a lot of fun.
There's only like 4 online. What do you?
Yeah, I know. Sorry.
You did good.
So here's a fun book. Let's dig back into this book. This is of course what book is this, Nico?
I assume that's the Strange Academy.
Strange Academy 1. Had a lot of hype when it came out again. Some of the hype died out a little. This is I think, what was this, JSC, the JSC variant for
Definitely
this?
Definitely JSC.
That's
the number 1 variant, right?
Yeah, this is a 1 variant. When I bought the Peach Momoko, the set, I got the entire variant set with it from a certain comic. So I bought them all. So I have the only one I don't have anymore is the Momoko one. I was willing to part with it at $200. Yeah, I'll sell that. It paid for all of those books plus more. I love this, and I started to dive into this into deep spec, and I think there's a really cool character in here. So let's look at that character. First of all, let's look at all the characters who are introduced, Nico. Let's have a fun. Who's the character? So I'll go full on this. You can feel free, to keep looking for Fallout.
No, that's all right.
So are we full right now? You full on me while I'm over here?
You're full. Yeah.
Okay, great. So this was okay. So let's take. So first of all, we know that the point of view character is Emily Bright. She's the one recruited. She's very powerful in the beginning. We see everything through her eyes. She's going to be our point of view character throughout. So she meets this Shaylee Moonpetal character who's a fairy. She comes from like sort of this fairy realm, whatever. We meet on the bottom here two brothers from Asgard, Eric and Alvi. They seem sort of like Asgardian a-holes. I also love that if you look, the mindless ones are the guys who are like doing like the lawn work in the back, which is great. We meet this frost giant character. Again, the Asgardians want to go after her. They're like, oh wait, don't go after her. So we meet her as well. She's not introduced by name in the book, but she is introduced like in a character profile early on. We meet the son of Dormammu, the evil minion of Dormammu. Bless you, Dormammu. Sorry, I pronounced his name. He's been one of the ones who's always battled Doc Strange. We meet this really cool, interesting orphan character who finds a coat that has demons and things that live inside the coat that he put on. He's up on the top page over here. Down on the bottom, there's an animage. We only see him for a couple panels. Herman, his name is. So he's an animage. So I've been looking at, who are animage characters we've seen in Marvel. How is he connected? We meet a character from Weird World. Weird World, I've been a big proponent of. He's this crystal guy on the bottom. Maybe that Crystar series ties into play again a little bit. Here's a cool one. This character, the one with the maroon language, she looks like a demon with hair over her eyes. Her name is Despair. You can call her Desi. She's a demon from Limbo. Oh, interesting. So who are some of those characters? We know that there's a Despair. We know this character. He was actually in Limbo for a while. He's had a lot of interactions with Clea. He's had interactions back and forth in the past. So maybe this is a legacy character, Desi, Despair. I was thinking about that. So that's someone to maybe look at. Maybe we see him and look at this guy. He's going to pop up again later in the show, at the end of the show today. But here are the characters I find most interesting. So the kid with the jacket is Calvin Morse with the demon jacket. There's Desi. But let's look at Zoe Laveau. Zoe Laveau, that character, that last name may ring a bell. We see her once again brought up in a panel here with Despair where she says, not really. I'm from here. This is home to me. She's like, I'm not talking about New Orleans. I mean your secret. I know it's hard to keep. I don't know what it's okay. I see you, but I won't tell. You don't know what you're talking about. I don't have a secret. I never tell. It's my burden. So this got me thinking right away. Oh, interesting. A secret for a character. What would this character's secret be? And then I started looking at her namesake. And if you know, there is a character, Marie Laveau. And Marie Laveau is, if you look in the bottom of the panel here, she's been involved with all of these different legacy characters. I write a lot about her on my Twitter page as well. I have more on her. But she knew the return of Varney would lead to the spread of vampirism throughout the world. In the end, Marie Laveau achieved her goal of returning vampires to Earth so that it is now possible for her to perpetuate her youth indefinitely. So I went back to look at her first appearance. Dracula Lives. I know you love books like this, right, Nico?
Absolutely.
So this is the Dracula Lives 2, and it says Midnight in Mysterious New Orleans, the Vampire and the Voodoo Woman. And of course, I got a couple of copies of this, and you can actually see her, some of this cool art. She's in the last story.
Oh, that's beautiful, man.
Yeah, and it says here, do you see Dracula? Madam's skin is wrinkled now, her beauty faded, but this is how she looked over 100 years ago. Then she's one of the few, the fortunate few who know the secret of immortality. The secret, I became a vampire to learn. But to conquer death, you had to die while Marie Laveau lived. So she knows the secret of immortality. The other, Desi, Despair says, oh, I know you have a secret. So my guess is Zoe Laveau is probably going to end up being Marie Laveau, who's been alive all these years later. I think her first appearance is probably going to be in Dracula Lives 2, right? Because she knows the secret to her immortality. What better way than to pose as your own great-granddaughter when you have that sort of immortality within? So she may end up being a really great character, and she's also featured on the really, and it says here, what's cool is in her wiki, Marie Laveau was born as a daughter of a wealthy Creole plantation owner. First of all, it's like tough times to be being that character anyway right now. She remained eternally youthful for over 200 years by harvesting vampirically altered blood. So I'm putting it down here that Zoe Laveau is Marie Laveau. I haven't seen that anywhere else yet. I'm pretty sure that's going to be her first. And you see her in the middle of this nice 1-25 variant. This is a tough book to find, I can tell you already. It's already starting to trend up a little and won't be easy to find. Second issue of this, again, because of the COVID crisis, some of the variants have been closed. I would look, to me, that's my character to look for in that book. I think she's going to end up being bigger, and obviously a tie into Brother Voodoo, who may know her secret as well. All right.
Nice.
We've been going on a while, right? So you know this book? I know you're just a Thor guy. Thor kind of Thunder Knight of Doom.
Yeah, I'm not familiar. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so this is the first appearance of this guy, sort of. This guy in the middle, the Dweller in Darkness. You know, Dweller in Darkness? You know, he's one of those cool characters. Yeah, he popped up here a little bit. He's sort of this character who feeds on fear. He lives in the black. He lives in the darkness. We really get to see him more in Doctor Strange 30, where he starts to look more like this, right? With like the big brain, the character coming down here. He kidnaps Clea. He's underneath the demon. He's, fear and dark, and he's and basically he can absorb energies out. And so I thought this was, I always love when I hear the one beneath all, and I start looking at these void characters and darkness characters. And there's a great series which I'm pretty sure is out of continuity, even though they bring it up on pages where they bring this character up. Adventures of the X-Men. You know the series? There are only 12 issues, and the 12th issue, I don't know if you know, such a weird prologue in this book. So here's how this book starts out. I'm the Watcher. It's been my eon's year task to observe the events of my universe and those which occur in dimensions alongside parallel worlds. We are on the doomed world of Ta, a planet where the sciences and arts have flourished. Still, the glittering facade disguises a tragic truth. Despite their status, the people were dying en masse. Primal matter of the universe was to them inexplicably altering, unleashing unspeakable plagues on so many inhabited worlds. Galen has returned. So now we see the story again. We see the story of Galactus in the beginning of Adventures of X-Men 12. And not only do we see that, but we see that Dweller in Darkness, and we see that Despair character again, right? Who both pop up in here. They're sort of feeding off the fear of others. And now we see, there it is. There's that character. I am the sentience of the universe. I, like yourself, am dying, but we need not die without an heir. Surrender yourself to my embrace, and let us become as one. Let our death serve as birth pangs for a new life. And a time beyond time shall we be born a new universe, and into that universe an entity like no others, possessing the matchless power and ravaging appetite of a galaxy. So we know the sentience of life. We've seen that character pop up several times. I know in one of the Galactus origins, I think Topher was bringing this up recently, right? He's forecasting that character may end up being, again, that character, the Black Winter, right? Like this could have been. I'm not sure I get that connection because she bonds with him. She's dying, he's dying. They become one together. To me, Galactus is the embodiment of both of them. But when this world is recreated, it's sort of recreated only with the Dweller in Darkness and Despair being sort of aware what happened before. This universe is so weird. And remember, when Galactus was born, the universe was recreated at that point. When we see him recreated, right? He's created at the same time. His hunger is reborn as the universe is reborn. I think this is a really interesting book to look at. I think this Dweller Below Darkness, and I think that Watcher character who pops up again in here, the regret, the remorse, what happened past. Watch these characters. Watch what Donny Cates does. He's gonna pull something out of there. I think we're gonna see something really fascinating happen. And I think that it's not gonna be a time to null. We've seen him say so many times, there's no null connection to what's going on over here in this corner. And I know he's a great deceiver. He actually even said recently, I took the tweet out, but he actually spoke about, yeah, I'm a big liar. When I said that sword for the new God Country book was not going to be connected to the universe, no, it is. This is a story connected. Yeah, because you're going to have the built-in audience, Donnie, of God Country who are going to want anything God Country related. So he essentially said it, but I think we're going to see a couple things start to tie in that may not be so sort of obvious or apparent. And that's where the great speculation comes in. This Adventure of X-Men, I bought 2 copies out of a long box I went in the other day for $2.50 each. Nice. Again, characters and things like scenes that happen in books that you don't know about unless you're reading them, right? All right, let's see. Did I think I'm ready to go live with us here on a couple more things. Oh no. So here's the final one, Nico. You know this book? This is a book not a lot of people know. Mighty Thor.
I got nothing.
Yeah. Okay. So why people may know this book is it ties into another book that seems so random here, Iceman 2 and Iceman 3. And way back around the time in November when I was talking about to that other individual about Black Winter and who could it possibly be, he put all his money into the character of Hunger, which is a really goofy character that's all in black, has his eyes out. So that's a character. He said, I put my money, on the other hand, in the Iceman into these Iceman books. And in this Iceman book, we see sort of these dark eyes, right? And Iceman is like falling into this. And this character's name, and we see him named here. And even though they list issue 2, he shows up very briefly. I have both, but we see his name is Oblivion, right? And I'm like, okay, this is, it's Iceman. It's so out of like context. And now where do you see this? He looks like he could have been one of the Apocalypse Horsemen, right?
Oh wow.
That was his appearance, right? So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna put that in my back.
If that guy would show up designed like that in a Thor comic written by Donny Cates, it'd be $500.
So now, well, let's talk about that. So now I said, okay, what happened to Oblivion? Like, where did he go after this? He's a powerful character. He's pretty powerful. I'm going to go back to full screen on this one. So Mighty Thor annual 1. There's an Art Adams cover for it as well, a variant.
Okay.
And so you get this start of the play. So plans within plans, lies within lies, truths within truths. Okay? See this guy right here? Galactus pops up, right? He sees this character called the Scryer. The Scryer and a character called the Other have been at battle for the beginning of time. And this story is being narrated, if you look in the bottom panel, by Oblivion. He says, oh, did you see it for an instant? The hint of fear in the world Devourer's eyes? Perhaps fear is too strong. Let's call it caution, wariness. So this Scryer character tells about meeting with Silver Surfer. They had been a battle. Silver Surfer had been killed, brought back to life by the Scryer, a character called the Other. This character, Scryer, takes Galactus, disappears for a second, and then, again, we hear in the panels on the bottom, could it be that during the instant that the Scryer and Galactus vanished, he wasn't Galactus at all? Could it be he stripped away the space god, revealing flawed, ever so human man he was before he evolved into a manifestation of cosmic death? So then we get this big sort of Thor pops up. We meet this other character. Thor and Galactus know each other. There's a battle there. this guy keeps watching from the top, right? Now there's a battle. Thor's battling through. We see some really weird things here. We see being devoured by this character called the Other that's in there. So these two are fighting again. We see like green doors open up, which is really like, I'm like, oh, wait a minute. This is like Al Ewing stuff going on. But again, now we see a full appearance of this Other character. He's that guy with all the eyes on the bottom. You're a blind fool, but that's to be expected from one so young, one so unevolved. Okay, so they battle again. There's a big battle going on. There's a lot of stuff in here. The void, the darkness, the Other. Eventually Galactus comes in and says, all right, enough of this. I'm going to kick ass. He comes in. He gives them both the what for, and Galactus disappears right at the end with Thor. And then we go back to say, what could this story have? So now there's Oblivion again, redesigned. He says, don't think badly of me.
It's a terrible redesign.
Oh, my God. The end of all things, it's my nature, my very identity is Oblivion. Before creation was, I was where creation ends. I wait. I'm the void, the breath between life and death, between death and rebirth, the nothing from which everything springs. The form you see, this throne I sit upon, are illusions, created for your benefit, not mine. For you looked upon me as I truly am. You would cease to exist, a state of affairs that would please me to no end.
We've heard that line before.
I think we've seen other things like that pop up, right? Down the line. And then I will also say that there's one more, I think, and then I don't think that's the very last, but when I saw that right away, of course, I was immediately like, oh, wait a minute. Like, appear as you want me to appear. And then he says, you waste your too short life trying to pierce a mystery can't be penetrated, your world, yourself. At least one day the bubble will burst. I'll have my way. So consider this before you turn the page and dismantle it. Maybe this whole plan has been mine all along. Plans within plans, lies within lies, truth within truths, Oblivion. And then he fades out again.
Now, dude, the line of "if you saw me how I truly appear," that's a repeat line.
It seems like it's popped up, right?
No, that's literally word for word a repeat line.
Yeah, I wonder where.
That's in one of the most recent Thor books. I can't remember.
Yeah, I thought so. But anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there. Some of those things may pop up now and then. Donnie pulling from things coming through. And again, it's a character from Iceman 2 and 3 books that weren't done live. I bought that Art Adams Thor annual for $12.
Here's the problem, though. Here's the problem. Unless we're really about this, I'm afraid people are going to they're not appreciate the longer message here. Is not that you or I are suggesting that is the first appearance of the God-blessed Black Winter character, that it's really this.
We're saying,
one's suggesting that.
We're saying Donny Cates cribs from everywhere. From
a little bit here,
snips.
There. I really, that language, and I don't even know that he does it intentional. There was a good line, I forget, it was like Kevin Smith was on like Fat Man Beyond talking to Mark Bernardin about hearing this exceptional joke that Mel Brooks told. And he's like, now I've got to embed it in my brain that that's Mel Brooks's joke and not mine, or else I'm going to put it in a movie. And you know what I mean? Like, it's just kind of like the nature of there's not a lot of new ideas.
Yeah.
Everything old is new again.
Everything
new perspectives, new, you know what I mean?
And that's what I want people to get away from this, Nico, is that don't spend $200 on the first appearance of a character 2 years from now who may not even exist anymore. The fun is find those characters, sell them for $200. Don't buy them. You were getting a little glitchy, Nico, so maybe we're coming close. But I have a really quick short stack round.
Yeah.
Okay. So I've shown before the little Mask comic that comes in the old toys. So Mask is supposedly coming back. I just saw news on Mask as well. There are some other cool little. Mask was also a book from IDW for a while, and Tom Whalen did some variants on all those books. I love those Tom Whalen variants. But if you can't find the little comic, start to look for some other Mask-related variants from IDW. Oh, there's that Ultraman one. That's the one you want to be looking for, right? That's the Virgin variant that's bagged up already. There were a lot of other non-US ones, but this is the one you want to grab, not the Zero, though that's a cool-looking one also. I don't know. Did you read Heavy Metal or what was it? Dark Metal? Was that what it's called? Dark Metal? The Batman?
No. None of it. I remember trying to buy it. It started coming out when I was just getting back into comics. And the guy who worked at one of the local comic shops was like, don't do it. It's not worth your time or your money. There have been great stories in these 5 years that you've taken off. Where would you like to start? Not there. So.
And Batman Who Laughs, if Batman Who Laughs didn't come out of that, we may not have like the same reverberations, because now we have that book again. We have Heavy Metal or whatever it's called, the Death Metal. But I read it. It's like the map was great. There's a map. If you go online and look at the map of that they mapped out for it, that's beautiful because they have all these different areas. But it looks again, like I said, these books, those flash forward books are tying into that. Wally has a big role to play in the reformation of the universe that's coming around. He was on both those issue 6 covers. All right, look for that. The Dark Multiverse, those single series, we've spoken about those before as well. These are all stories within the Dark Multiverse. A lot of first appearances in all of those books. And this guy, he's Young Justice. He just joined Young Justice. He jumps between dimensions. He's going to be a key figure. I don't want to speak blasphemy. He can end up being a Miles Morales type character, and I know they wanted to push that for a while. But he could end up being that type of character if they really continue to develop and what they want to go. And we know the other guy, Tempest Fugitus, who I know Comic Jims is a big fan of as well. Back in the day, there's that New Mutants. We finally found the cover of that. It was buried in there, issue 13. You know that one. Cthulhu. Oh, you're right, Nico. We're almost over. Issue 9 and 10 of the Scarlet Spider. This is believe it or not, a Cthulhu appearance that is really super like rare and hard to find. In terms of, you don't see a lot of Cthulhu appearances per se, and they've been sparking that character up. When you get in here in all his glory, like you get like that type of like tentacle action going through, and then they at the end they say, oh, there, like look at. Like you get some like real tentacle on tentacle action over there. Watch this character. We've talked about Shumagorath. Am I saying his name right? Shumagorath? Is that Shumagorath? Look at some of those characters that tie into these cosmic elders. The Cancerverse I brought up. Moon Knight, you know he's in the Avengers book right now. The annual that came out introduces a lot of new Moon Knights. We may see some of them popping up. This is a Moon Knight Annual 1 by Cullen Bunn. Series I've been buying up that I think is a great kids all series, Gotham Academy 1, right?
Oh, really?
And really tough to find variants. Yeah, I think Gotham Academy is a great premise for a show down the line.
Oh, yeah, no question about it. And I leave them behind like a dum-dum. Are there variants, you said?
Oh, they're tough to find variants on that. Yeah. Look for those variants. And finally, one other thing I saw brought up again, because they keep saying she's going to be the HBO Max series, that Rose and Thorn, right? So you want to get the Nationals Comics ones over here, and also probably just to be safe, the Adam Hughes. Yeah, you know that that this character popped up way back. You're not going to be buying those Silver Age first issues of Rose Forest, but this was the one that seems pretty close. She is in the Legion books right now. I'm of the mindset that she's going to become the Emerald Empress. Watch for it. In Legion. Wow. There's the Emerald Eye who possesses characters. They've zoomed in on her green eyes a lot that she has in there. That's just another little one. But again, no one's out there. Nico, I seriously, I think I've sweated through my shirt with some speculation. We've gone 2.5 hours. I apologize for all our listeners who pulled in for that, like those 8-minute echoes or whatever. Hopefully you got enough out of today.
They got stuck listening to me about nonsense, and I also want to apologize.
And what was great is your internet is only starting to go now, Nico. So you're only getting glitchy right at this point. But thank you, everybody, for showing up. Now, next Sunday, I won't be around. I'm hoping to be back in 2 weeks, hopefully, Nico, because I'll be, I'm going to be in Cape Cod for like a week. So but we'll figure it out.
Yeah, dude, I don't think I can do it in 2 weeks. I got a con the 19th, but we could just record Saturday. Or
we'll figure it out. I'm not from the 12th to the 19th, actually. So maybe we'll figure it out. Maybe we'll do it the next day. We'll figure it out. We'll put it on Twitter. We'll put it up on Twitter. Nico will update his comic speculation guide, and hopefully you got some stuff out of here today, guys. Keep on buying. Books are coming out again. We'll be previewing, reviewing, and doing all that stuff. Look for those books. And Nico and the Comic Perspective, out. Peace.